So good morning, everybody. We're really happy to have you here on the third day of NASEP. I want to take a moment to recognize one of our guest speakers who is going to be, or who has joined us today and is going to be speaking with you all about water quality and different water rights that relate to the Tanatam tribe specifically. He has a great wealth of knowledge and he's such a great leader and elder. He's been a part of NASEP since I've started working for NASEP. And I know that when Kiara was a part of NASEP, that he was one of the mentors that she met as well. His name is Celso Villegas. And Celso, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself a little bit to the group.
Sure, I'll do that. Yes, currently I'm the director of the Water Resources Department on the Tohono Nation, my nation. Went to the University of Arizona. I got my bachelor's, master's, and a PhD there at the university. I always talk about my PhD was in environmental toxicology, poisoning of the environment. And so I feel like I did what I was supposed to do in school, and now I'm back working for my nation. So thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. And I think something that I shared with Celso in an email is that in addition to being such a great scientist and someone who's a leader in STEM, he's also an artist. I know that he writes poetry and he also is an activist, and so has fought for Indigenous rights and also has fought for the rights of Mother Earth. So multifaceted and someone I want to highlight because again, we have so many components to who we are as people, and you don't have to be just one single thing. And so I think that's also really represents that. And so really happy that he's here with us today. So without further ado, I'm going to screen share our presentation, and hopefully I know how to do this by now because I keep putting it in presenter mode. But again, feedback is always helpful if that's what I'm doing. Here we go. Is it good? Is it the right screen?
Yes.
Great, okay. So again, we are on our third day of the Native American Science and Engineering program, and so happy to have you all here. What our agenda looks like today is we're going to be doing our morning check-ins. So we're going to break out into breakout rooms and discuss the assignments from yesterday. And after that, we'll have our session one, which is the presentation of water quality with the Tanatam Water Resources Center and Dr. Celso Villegas. And then after that, our second session will be from the Southwest Environmental Health Sciences Center, which is also known as SWEC. And we'll do our reflections and debrief, which will include a demonstration of the water quality test kits and the use of the water samples that you all collected yesterday. So again, just a couple reminders. If your parents aren't on Slack yet, please do so and have them turn their notifications on. We're still waiting for a couple of the photos to come through to our Box account. And they're very important because unlike other years where we're all together and able to take pictures for memories and whatnot and for use of the program, we don't have that this year. So that's why we're relying on you all to submit them to us. I did update the results of the Nike Run Club Challenge on the wellness channel for Slack. And so let me see who is in the lead right now. We have lab rats. The lab rats are at 3.31 miles, and the way that this value is being calculated is the average per group. So it's being divided by 8 since you all have 8 team members. And so if you want to increase that, then have your team join in on putting in some of those miles with you. And I saw Kiara give a cheer, a silent cheer, but I did see it. And then we may be using Kahoot for a couple sessions, so familiarize yourself with that. And also, if you're having trouble creating the ACES membership, please let me know, and we would be happy to help you complete that. Again, guidelines, Make sure that you're being respectful of yourself and others. Be on time for the programming. Make sure that you're engaged. We did notice that yesterday there were a couple of people who were like either playing games or watching outside videos, because some of the stuff that we're doing is entertaining, but is not laugh out loud crazy. So please make sure that you're paying attention. I may send you a message on here on chat, or maybe on Slack if I notice that you need to redirect your attention towards what we're doing today. You all have been doing a great job of communicating with me via text message, Slack, and email, so keep that up. In addition, have your video on. I think the first day we did allow for people not to have it on just because of traveling and stuff for the holiday weekend, but that was just that day. So from now on, please have your video on unless there's some specific reason for why you can't, but the video should be on. So this morning, we have, again, our Twisted Blue Mind group led by Natalia Kachora. We have our Swag Kids led by Denise. I'm going to be taking over Swag Kids for this morning. And then also Lab Rats, which is led by Kiara Begay. So if we want to do our cheers this morning, we'll have we'll have Kiara start.
Dang, really just throwing me under the bus. All right, Lab Rats, since we're usually last, I guess on the count of 3, you can just yell out. I know it's early, I'm sorry, but 1, 2, 3. All right, not bad. Thank you.
It's not throwing you under the bus, it's keeping you on your toes. So next we're gonna do Swag Kids, and for Denise, Denise is doing a certification exam for jobs. So we want to send her positive energy. So that with that thought process, we want to make sure that she hears us. So if the Swag Kids can unmute themselves and give Denise a big cheer this morning. So 1, 2, 3. Woo! Great job. All right, next up is the Twisted Blue Mind.
Okay, Twisted Blue Minds, unmute, and I'm gonna change it up. What we're gonna do is howl like a coyote. So let's do it. Let's be the one to wake everyone up. So on a count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh my gosh, you guys, really? It was just me. We got to work on it. We got to work on it.
I heard Yanaba.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so now that we're awake, we are going to be renaming ourselves again this morning. So yesterday it was our favorite social media type and handle. So this morning it's going to be your first name and a STEM career you are interested in. So you're going to go to participants, find yourself, and then you're going to rename yourself. So for myself, it would be Carol Epidemiology. And then so we can see what everybody's is, because sometimes it gets muddled or cut off. I'm going to have you type in the chat good morning, and then we'll be able to see everybody's. Make sure it's set to everybody. Good morning. They see mine. Carol Epidemiology. And so as you all are doing that, Natalia, if you could give me a hand and read out what other people are posting, I'm going to get our breakout rooms ready. I think you might be on mute. Denise, can you help her out and read some of the names that are coming through on the or what you see people are changing their names to either on the screen or in the chat. But make sure everybody's writing good morning in the chat just so that we can have it recorded.
For some reason, I'm not hearing everybody. So Carol, are you able to hear me?
Oh, sorry. I was on mute.
Okay. Okay, sorry
let me
about that.
start at the beginning.
Sorry.
Tennille mathematician, Azure engineering, Kiara pharmacist, Hannah mechanical engineering, Rudy algebra, Cole civil engineering, Autumn epidemiology, Taylor environmental engineering, Michaela veterinary science, Jaren electrical engineering, Kale mathematician, Natasha astronomy, Caitlin engineering, Yanaba medical, Jeffrey computer science, Antonia environmental engineering, Kayla mechanical engineering, Corneliuson civil engineering, Celso Callista environmental science, Zeta anesthesial anesthetician, Addie astrologer, Kalana micro or marine biologist, Kayamari marine biologist, and I think that is it.
Awesome.
And I put,
oh,
and for me, I put Natalia, air and water quality.
I see them as I'm putting them into breakout rooms, and there's so much diversity in what is on here. So I think that's awesome. All right. So what we're doing after this is we did have some assignments from yesterday. So we're going to be going into our breakout rooms with our team leads, and we're going to be discussing what we learned, how the content made you feel, and identifying what some of the themes are. And so I'm going to open the breakout rooms. I'm going to have them open for about 7 minutes, and then we'll come, actually I'll do it for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back, share out, and then we'll get started with our presentation for this morning. And then Rudy, I'm gonna hop into Denise's room, and then I'm also making Celso a co-host, so you two can pop into different groups. I'm in room 2, and then Kiara's in room 3, and then there's room 1. Or you can stay in here and talk, but I'm gonna pause the recording.
Great. And then I'll also work with Celso because I think he has a PowerPoint to just make sure that he's able to share everything. If I'm not mistaken, I thought I had heard that.
Okay.
So great, thanks, Carol.
Across in that certain topic, and the planning part, one of our team members, she said that it helps in the future, like what to expect, I guess. So yeah.
Thank you.
Great. I'm gonna have Michaela talk for the swag kids.
So what we talked about was water sources on the reservations and the videos that we watched. We were just discussing about it, and they're saying like how we should have like really not have to like fight for it. We should have already been given to it for us because we were treated like, or we weren't treated badly, but we were treated somehow. We weren't compared to the other people. And yeah.
And then for lab rats, I'm gonna pick on Kayla. Or no, Taylor, my bad. She had some really good thoughts during our discussion.
Basically what we just talked about was sorry about that. How like the pattern that we saw or that someone saw constantly throughout the videos was how many times the US government broke treaties with the native people and didn't promise them water or anything like that. And also how much of a struggle it was for Native Americans or the people of this tribe to get water and how it was an important source of water. Well, it was important to them. Well, not just for like everyday living, but like as a culture as well, because of how they always grew plants and stuff and how that was always a part of their culture. And then also how we felt about the videos too was we all felt sad and mad, and one of us felt actually motivated by the videos to educate people, which is really cool. And that's basically what we talked about.
Thank you. I think you all have thought about the videos and pulled out some themes and also processed how it made you feel. So that's great. That's the point of the assignments, to really get you thinking about these different areas of STEM, which we're transitioning here today to be about environmentalism and land stewardship, which includes water and the beings that are on this earth. And so I think that the video set that up well to where we were hearing about a challenge that the Gila River community was facing with their water being dammed, and then going on into them actually winning a monumental court case where they're getting the water rights back, which sets up a great opportunity for the rest of our communities because it sets the precedent for us to be able to do that as well. In addition to hearing about a current and recent water rights fight with the Keystone Pipeline, with the No DAPL movement, and how it impacts so many other areas of our communities, not just water and not just health, but how we're seen as people. And if you're dehumanizing people, it's easier to take their rights away, right? And listening to also how some of the water rights things are set up within the US and how it does impact us. And so thank you for doing your assignments and discussing those different things with us. So with that, I think that it sets up perfectly in our discussion of water to transition into our presentation with Dr. Villegas about his work with water. And again, he is, I think I was talking with your grandson who also did NASEP, Isai Flores, and he mentioned to us that you're one of 15 water scientists in the state, and I think that's awesome. And so again, if you have any questions about water or anything else, Celso is a resource, and I hope you see him as that. So without further ado, Celso, you have the floor. Thank you so much. I think you're muted.
Yeah, always do that. Start talking. So yeah, thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Celso. As I said earlier, I'm the director of the Water Resources Department for the Tohono Nation here in Southern Arizona. I would like to talk about Mother Earth, the importance of water, water quality, and the politics of water. Try to get it all in. I'm going to go slowly, and you're going to see me read. I'm reading my tablet because I have to, because I don't memorize anything no more because I'm getting older. It's kind of hard to do, but hope you enjoy the PowerPoint. First, we need to acknowledge the Juakacham, Mother Earth. Our mother is a living being. Through her abiotic and her biotic processes, she allows us to live. And every morning through photosynthesis, she converts energy from the sun to make oxygen for us. She spins the water cycle to give us rain and snow. Her soils produce plants that feed us and the animals, and for the animals we eat. She produces all the raw materials we need to build shelters to protect ourselves from extreme weather. Every morning, I ask Natokam, our creator, to protect her, especially from us. We make holes in her skin by mining, we pollute her water, and we pollute the air, and she still takes care of us. Oh, let me see what's going on. Okay, let me see. Okay. Her position from the Tash, the sun, is by design. She's not too close to burn us, and she's not too far to freeze us. She has been a mother to many other life forms. Now we're her children. We should be thankful, and contrary to what we think or what we believe, we are not capable of living without her help. Although Mother Earth is good to us, we may not be good for her. By burning coal, diesel, and gas, we are polluting our atmosphere with carbon dioxide gas, CO2 gas. Increasing CO2 gas in our atmosphere is increasing our average global temperature. We are giving our mother a fever. Climate scientists believe that if we want to control global warming, we need to keep CO2 gas levels in our atmosphere under 350 parts per million. But as you can see, we're not doing a good job. As of May of this year, we've moved up to 419 parts per million. That means that we're not doing anything. We're just burning the heck out of coal. Water is life. When her mother spins the water cycle, she's given us life. All life on this planet needs water to survive. We, her children, are water babies. About 2/3 of our body is made of water. Our bodies have trillions of cells. Water supports cellular or chemical reactions. Our cells use chemical reactions to create energy, to control molecular transport, and for reproduction. When you take a college inorganic chemistry class, you will learn a lot about water and its properties. Water is a polar molecule which allows it to dissolve most other molecules. It is called a universal solvent. We should be thankful to Mother Earth for providing such a life-producing solvent. That is why we say water is life. So why should you care about water? Or why do we care? The answer is really simple. If you don't drink water, you will become dehydrated, your cellular functions will shut down, and you may need immediate medical attention. And this is my public service announcement for today. Make friends with water, drink lots of water. Make friends with life, drinks lots of water. So let's talk about water quality. But first, you're gonna have to take a short quiz. I'm just kidding, trying to see who woke up on that one. Because I know when you go to college, quizzes and tests are two words you hate to hear, especially if it's thrown upon you. Surprise quiz. But anyway, In 1974, the Safe Drinking Water Act became federal law to ensure safe drinking water for the public. Before the Safe Drinking Water Act, no one was really certain if their water was safe to drink unless they tested the water. Something you guys are going to learn in this program. Because of the Safe Water Drinking Act, the Environmental Protection Agency is required to set drinking water quality regulations or standards and make sure that the state and tribal public water suppliers implement these regulations. For us, the Tohono O'odham Utility Authority is responsible for providing us with safe water to drink. Currently, the EPA has determined 90 contaminants that need to be regulated. These contaminants are called the National Primary Drinking Water Regulations and must be treated by the public water providers. The EPA has also determined 15 contaminants that do not need to be regulated. They may be safe to drink, the water may be safe to drink, but the water may look, taste, or smell bad, but it's still safe to drink. These contaminants are called the National Secondary Drinking Water Regulations. I will concentrate on the primary regulations. Let's look at arsenic. Arsenic is a toxin and very common in drinking water in the arid Southwest. Can anybody, this is an open forum, does anybody know what a toxin means? Anybody? Toxin. Have you heard that word before? Nobody?
Yeah, I'll call on somebody.
Anybody?
Mateo, can you guess what a toxin definition is?
Me.
Did you say me or someone else? My bad.
Mateo?
Oh,
Or since you're
sorry.
unmuted, we'll do you.
Oh,
You're volunteering yourself.
isn't it just bad for your body?
Yes, that's the best answer I ever heard. You know, there's a definition.
Also, can I give you one? Can I give you an answer that's
Sure.
just it's a joke answer though. I
Okay,
was just thinking that when I ask my family, when I meet people from outside of Tucson, they oftentimes pronounce Tucson as toxin.
well, maybe.
So
It may
so
be,
just a small joke.
but you hit it right on the head. It's not good for you. It's a poison. That's what a toxin is. So we look at this chart right here. It can cause skin damages and problems with the circulatory system. In India, where the arsenic levels are really high, a lot of the Indian people in India have a lot of blotches. They have a lot of dark patches on their skin, very prominent. It's just not good. But for us here in the United States, there is a risk of getting cancer. And it's a byproduct of natural deposits. It's in our, much of the contaminant in our water from arsenic is in the soils and geology. So we're stuck with it. So we have to treat it. But now, if I can get out of this screen, how can I get out of this screen? Can anybody, oh, I can end my show and then start it again. Okay. So right now I want to do a demonstration of what I do, or what Isai does. Isai Flores works for me. I'm teaching him how to become a water quality specialist. So there's a village. The Safe Water Drinking Act does not apply to drinking water, to bottled water, just to let you know when you guys drink bottled water. Bottled water is regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. And in my opinion, they're not doing a good job. So you don't know really what you're drinking. One time I opened I can't even think of it now, what water. I just picked out any water. And I looked out on the internet and I asked, and I tried to look for the water quality, but they had in bottle. And they only had about 3 or 4 things that they're analyzing for. And when I asked for the full, because there was a little section that said you want to see the full thing. So I asked for it. I went to the link, but nothing ever showed up. So aqua water, and I was thinking, okay, so they're not telling me everything. So how do I know what I'm drinking? So that was a big deal. That's when I realized, like, hey, it's true. They're not regulating every bottle of water that they're selling. And the other thing you need to know about bottled water is that if you can crush your water bottle with your hand, just crush it, and it makes a crackling sound, you're actually putting polymers into the water you're drinking, because that light plastic can break within itself, and the water's there, and water's a solvent and may pull some of that stuff into you. That's why if you're going to use a water bottle, I would suggest you get a really heavy duty water bottle that you can't crush. And they make those, some of the bottled water companies make those. I think Fiji water is kind of hard to squash. That's my favorite if I have to drink bottled water, but I really don't. And because of that, I'm gonna drink some water right now. And I'm drinking hard plastic. So let's go with this. So so the other thing is that the Safe Water Drinking Act does not cover private wells. So if you're not on a system like the Tohono O'odham Utility water supply system, they will not test your water, but my department will. So I do that for the 13 families that are not on the utility system. So let's see what's going on here at Jewett Merck Dirt Burn. So so what I do is that I just show you what I do. It's walk through it real quick, if I can remember myself. So I sort out things. So first I go into the NDs, non-detect. That means that the equipment that the lab we send to at Turner Lab here in Tucson, it can't detect it. It's a non-detect. But it doesn't mean that there's nothing in there. It's just that the machinery cannot detect it, the equipment they're using. So I tell people it may be there, it may not be, but the lab says it's non-detectable. So what I do is I try to get I am going to get all the non-detects out because they can't detect it. There is no value. So then I cut that out. So now I have all the constituents that are detectable. And then this side right here on column H, I have the National Drinking Water Primary Standards, what you can't pass, what you're not supposed to pass. You can't drink it. The maximum contaminant level is what the EPA says, that if it's above it, do not drink it. So then I go here to the parameters that I'm going to look at. And so by just my training, I know that aluminum is not good, arsenic's not good. These are all primary standards. Beryllium's not good. Chromium, just the way I'm saying chromium and copper, right away you shouldn't, you just tell you I ain't drinking that. E. coli is a bacteria. It's present in this sample. Fluoride's present. Iron's okay because you need iron for your body. Lead is not good. Nitrates are not good either, and nitrites are not good. And then selenium is not good either. That's what I did my dissertation on. Was I studied selenium in the backwater systems on the Colorado River system that affect the insects, fish, and mammals. That was my dissertation. And then let's go down a little bit. Total coliforms are not good. Not too bad, but they're not good. And uranium. You don't want to drink uranium. So I'm gonna do this, and now I have these are the national primary standard regulations for this water sample that you're seeing right here. So these are the ones that I look for. So I say we're going to take arsenic. Let's look at total arsenic. So total arsenic, the standard is 10 parts per billion. That's what the standard is. That's what's regulated. As you can see here, that this water sample has 15 parts per billion. Now, that's the debate. We said it's a poison, said it's not good for you. So would 5 parts per billion mean anything? I mean, could you drink it? And some people say you can, some people say you can't. But if it's a poison, I would say nah. If the EPA says that this is the regulated maximum contaminant level, and I get this in a water sample, I'm gonna say nah, I'm not gonna drink it. Because if you drink water at 15 parts per billion over 2, maybe 5, 10 years, you're drinking that water, you will get chronic effects and you may get cancer. So when I argue with other people, I say, this is what the EPA said. This is what I have. Don't tell me that the water is not poisonous. And just to let you know, when I was a young kid, I used to like to watch the Perry Mason show. He was a detective. He was a lawyer. He was always trying to. Anyway, there was one thing I remember first heard about arsenic. Arsenic is a rat killer. They used to use it a long time ago to kill rats. Well, anyway, this lady, this wife was poisoning her husband every day by putting 1 teaspoon of arsenic in there. It looks like sugar. It's white crystal, and she was putting it in, giving it to him, and he was drinking. And finally, he died from he died because of chronic illness, but nobody knew until Perry Mason's, because he was this genius, went and found out arsenic poisoning. That's the first time I ever heard of arsenic poisoning. So every day I check my coffee and my tea that my girlfriend makes for me to make sure that that it's real sugar. So let me see, let's go down the line. Barium's good, so I'm comparing the standards against what the values are. And so this is good, oh, okay. It has chromium. Now that's very unusual. When I do this report, and if ESI reported chromium to me, and it's just about 6 parts per billion than what is allowable, I think, I'm just letting you know, I'm thinking right now, but I remember that I made a mistake. This is an error for my part right here, because I know that for chromium, the real value, because I do this a lot, so it's a type error. That's the real value right there. So we're good. So that's what I do. I have to go through every one of these and look at copper and say, it's good. Okay, it says that E. coli is present by being a 1. If it was a 2, means it's absent. So E. coli is in this sample. E. coli is a bacteria, and it's not good for you. It causes headaches, fever, diarrhea. You don't want this in your water. And a lot of private wells on the nation, the 13 families, have a lot of E. coli because they don't maintain their wells by putting a safe, clean head on the top of their wells. They really don't take care of their wells. That's what it's boiling down to. Okay, fluoride's okay. That's okay. There was no nitrites. I mean, excuse me, excuse me. So nitrogen's there was no nitrites, but nitrogen's there. It's 10 is the value, 1.5 is the selenium's okay. Total coliforms bacteria is present. Total coliforms are natural in this environment. The water that I'm drinking right now has total coliforms in there, but my body is so used to it, and it fights this lower level bacteria that it's not a problem. It's the E. coli that is the problem. That is the problem. And then the last one is uranium. Okay, we have a problem there. The uranium is about 6 parts per billion above the recommended standard. So now I go through this, and now I have a problem. So chromium is not bad because there was an error that I checked. So now I have arsenic and uranium. So what I do now as a director of water resources, I notify the Tohono Utility Authority is that if anybody's drinking that water from that village, these are the two things that are there and they're above the standards that are required for safe drinking water. And they talk to me about it and then we discuss what we're gonna do. Kiwatamirk is an old village and I think nobody's living there except one person. And so the district, the Samoa district provides water for that person because that was my recommendation, just give them bottled water. They can use the water for cleaning, not washing dishes, but for clothes, for washing clothes or for just nothing you can't ingest it. So washing clothes, anything they wash in their car. But I tell them that they need bottled water. So that's what I do. That's what you guys should be doing. I think you're going to have about 11 or 9 to 11 parameters that you're going to look at, and you're going to do it. Then you're going to sort of run something like this I just did. And so thank you for allowing me to do this. I thought that would be something you guys would, because this is what I do. Eastside is doing it now, but I run the quality control on it because I want to be sure when I report to the EPA that our waters in these 13 families are good. It's up to me and I want to be correct. So I double check Eastside's work. Sorry, Eastside, but that's what I do.
All good, all good.
Okay. So then, so now I don't have to get back to my, I can give you back the screen. I'm gonna stop sharing because now I want to have a discussion with you guys. And I know that, let me see, let me look at my stuff. I don't have a PowerPoint for this discussion, but I would like some feedback. I would like some conversation because every time I talk to youth, you guys are very closed. But when you talk about water, you have to be open. You have to change the way you look at who you are and your discussion. Because as for me, I'm 70 years old and I'm already over the hill. Doesn't mean I'm really old, but I still like to play basketball, still like to run and weightlift, but I still think I'm young in my head, but my body is saying, no, you're not. So I can't dunk no more. And in basketball, if you can't dunk, now what's the point? But anyway, so there's possible stuff we can talk about, and it's water, water sovereignty, water rights, climate change, water availability, mining, anything you want to talk about. But I do want to, you guys, I wonder if you guys, how many of you guys actually watched those 4 videos that you were asked to do? Can you have thumbs up or show of hands or put your hands up? But you needed to. Those are pretty good. I watched them myself, and I came out with some stuff. And just to give you a quick one on the water rights with Rod Lewis talking. Rod Lewis is a friend of mine. Met him early on. He's a mentor. He really helped me to decide to get into water. So I really respect him a lot. I think we talked a lot about a lot of stuff when I was younger. He kind of liked me, and but he didn't like me too much because his son, Governor Steve Lewis, who is the governor now, used to play for the Gila River Raiders. That was his son's team, and we used to beat on them all the time. So Rod didn't like that, but he never said nothing to me. But so Steve and I, Governor Lewis and I have common things. We protect the water, and we protect our water rights, and we're basketball players. So can anybody answer this question? It wasn't in the video, but it talked about, does anybody know where Coolidge Dam is located at? Anybody? I don't like to call, we can call, but if anybody just knows, that's a conversation. This is a conversation. You don't have to raise your hand, or if you know the answer, just, say. Anybody?
I don't know where it is. Does anybody?
Oh. So the Cooley's Dam is on the San Carlos Indian Reservation. I don't know if anybody knew that, but the San Carlos Reservoir is what's behind it, and that's where San Carlos used to make a lot of their tourist money. So I thought I'd just throw that inside because there's a lot of stuff that came out of this thing, out of those 4 things that I was looking at. And everybody knows that, or should know that the Colorado, the Gila River Indian community got the lion's share of CAP water through their settlement. We were in the same settlement with them. The Tohono were in the same settlement. We got 66,000 acre feet of CAP water that comes to the nation that I have to monitor every year. But they got 311, about almost 312,000 acre feet of CAP water. That's a lot of water. That's a line. So what they lost by the river, lost to the Gila River, stopped running through the reservation, they gained by getting the CAP allocation, the largest CAP allocation in history as a tribal entity. And I know that Rod Lewis, Mr. Steve was telling me that they're putting that water into use. They're running all these programs, and I'm happy for them. I actually see water in the Gila River when I'm going to gambling at the White Horse. Oh, maybe I shouldn't say that. But anyway, but so it looks good. So anybody have anything to say to this point? How did you like that video?
We do have questions in the chat.
Okay, I didn't see that.
Would you like me to read them out to you?
Sure.
Okay, so KO asks, what keeps the companies accountable to the regulations?
That's a good question. So here's how it goes. If you're a designated EPA public water supplier, you have to report your monthly sampling. If you find that for 3 samples in a row that that those samples are above the MCL, then you have to start a remediation program. That's how they keep on top of you. And some tribes, they do it monthly, some do it quarterly, but if you have three times where you do analysis and 3 times it's above, you have to do something, or else by enforcement, you'll be fined, you'll be stripped of your public water supplier, and you don't want to do that. But yeah, that's what companies, the city, Tucson Water, which provides water for the University of Arizona, all of those people are under compliance, and you don't want that bad publicity as a company because it's going to come out.
And we have another question by Jaren. How much do you get paid to check the safety of the water?
For me personally, I get paid as the director. I can tell you, $166,000 a year. But you know what? I think the deal about that is that I just don't do water. I do a lot of other things that require my expertise. And I think I'm happy because I'm working for my nation. I'm working for my people. I'm working in water. I didn't worry about how much I got paid until lately. I think they finally realized that I was going to retire. And so they increased my salary. So I don't know what that means, but you know, anything over $100,000 as a job is worth it. That's why you go to college. You know, if you want a better pay, you go to school because those are your credentials.
And from Kiara, are there preventative measures to ensure the toxins do not increase in some water sources?
Yes, there are, and that's you need to do studies to find out what your water quality in the areas that you are in your concern. I'll give you a good example. Every district on the nation has a water management plan, and we've done water quality assessments for each of the districts, and we know what the pollutants are, the toxins are. Okay, so some areas, they can do preventative measurements by not using water in that area. That's the number one thing. Don't use water in that area. But it turns out that people need to drink water. So the best way you can, to prevent toxins is to treat it. And what the nation does, all of our service wells that TOUA services, all of them are treated, if they have arsenic, are treated for arsenic to remove arsenic from the water, from using ferrous iron molecules to remove arsenic out. It's very expensive. It costs about $500,000 to $1 million to equip these water treatment plants at the well. But you're kind of stuck with the water you got. I mean, if your only water source is the water you have underneath you, you have to be sure that you monitor and make sure that the water is good enough to drink, at least, and the toxins that are there can be removed by treatment. It's really hard to find places in the world where the water has no toxins. It's just a reality thing. Because remember, water is filtrates down into the soil, whatever's in the soil, in the geology, and you pump it back up, that water is going to have those contaminants or toxins.
Thank you. And so the next question is from Antonio, and I think he kind of hit on part of it, is how do you solve the high levels of toxins with larger groups of people?
It was treatment. Treatment is probably the only thing that is required. I mean, that's the big deal. If you live in the Southwest area, the Tohono Nation, Arizona, Utah, there's a lot of places that have arsenic. So the thing that we need to be sure is that the EPA does not allows us at 10 parts per billion, because we can afford that. If they drop it down to 5 parts per billion, which is good for us internally, you know how much money that's going to cost to treat it? It's going to cost more money. But here's what I think is that the federal government, if they care about their people, including Native Americans, Indians, us, they should pay for it. They pay for other stuff that I look at when I see their budget, national budget, and say, look, why are they doing that? Why, that's part of the discrimination, I believe, that's happening with our system, with the United States system, is that people that have money, they don't have to worry. They can drink clean water. People that don't have money have to pay for that treatment. And so I'm making a political statement by saying that's not fair. So if you want to treat a large group of people, you ought to make sure that you have enough money to treat them, because that's the only water they have. If you think about it, and the facts about water, is that fresh water constitute about 3% of our total water on Earth. So in perspective, I do this all the time. My head is the size of the Earth, okay? Some people say it's bigger. And I have a big head, so I'm bigger than the Earth. But anyway, my eyeball is all the water, fresh water, not salt water, not ocean water. So my total eyeball is the amount of water we have, 3% of the total. My pupil is how much available fresh water in the whole world. But the fact that it gets recycled all the time because of the hydraulic cycle, we're pretty fortunate, because we're drinking dinosaur water. It just keeps recycling. But that small amount is what we all have to share. The problem with it is that we're contaminating that water by mining and other things, and wasting it, actually. So treatment,
Thank you. So the next question comes from Addie. Why would water brands still sell if there's still toxins mixed in?
That's really simple. Greed and money. Because, because that's what it's about. If they care about us, they would sample at least one or two out of a 10, a batch of 10, they should test at least 2 or 3, 1 or 2. But if they're not testing that water at that rate, because it's, you have millions of bottles of water in the United States, a lot of that stuff gets tested. People say they don't test the bottle. They test the water that goes into the bottle. But once you put it into a container, then it changes everything, because now you have it inside a closed bottle. And it's not the same water that you had if you're just, from a well or from their water source. That's always been my point of contention with bottled water, is that when people say, well, they tested and it's good, I'm thinking, are you really sure? We never had bottled water before. And now we make polymers and monomers that make up this plastics that we use to carry water. And are those things safe? And if you put a plastic bottle in your car and leave it there, and the sun and the heat get to it, you're forming a chemical reaction. And I just said water is a universal solvent, and it's going to pick up anything that comes off of that plastic. Nothing's safe in this world. I mean, we made it. If it's man-made, it's not good for us. That's all I can tell you.
Okay, Teo, can you ask your question?
Oh, so you're talking about like how the water gets tested like quarterly or monthly. I was wondering if it's like a scheduled test or if it's more like random.
No, it has to be, if you're a public water supplier, it has to be a schedule. It has to be what you agreed upon with the EPA when you're going to test your water. I test the 13 families twice a year. I test them in the summertime when it's hot and in the winter when it's cold, because I want to see if there's a dynamics between hot and cold with what they're drinking. That's just a personal thing that I do. But I know that TOUA, they were testing quarterly, and I think that's in the report. And that's all you have to do, because the water, if it's in the ground, it doesn't, the water quality doesn't change as much as on the surface because it's in the ground. And so some people have tested once a year, but I think EPA requires quarterly. And so it's really scheduled. You make an agreement when you do the your quality assessment, quality assurance program for your water. You need to tell them what you're going to do, and they need to agree on it, and then you need to do it. And that's how the EPA regulates tribal, state, and county, anybody that produces water in the United States. So I noticed that, Carol, I know that we're past the 10 o'clock.
We're good.
Is it to 10:30?
Yeah.
Or is it? Oh, okay. So
45.
yeah. Okay. All right. So so the other thing that I saw in the videos was activism. And I think my biggest problem about activism, and I'm gonna tell you really quickly, is, when I say these people, it's not about telling you who I am and what I do, but I protested the Vietnam War. I protested the use of napalm. I protested acid rain. I protested the Orem Dam that was going to flood out the Fort McDowell Indian Reservation. I protested, cruel treatment and killings of O'odham people in Ajo and Tucson. I did a lot of walking, a lot of protesting, but in that protest activism part is that sometimes you will get hurt physically when they start to arrest you. Mm-hmm. When I was younger, I didn't care because I didn't care. I mean, I used to always tell the story of how a group of O'odham kids, young kids, high school kids, how a lot of our people come off the reservation and go to Tucson and drink in bars. They call them Indian bars, and they're there. We used to go and just sit there. We couldn't go in or drink because we were just kids. And But we noticed that when they, towards about 1 o'clock in the morning, they would, the bartender would get our Autumn members, men and women, and push them out of the bar, you know, like there's no more money and they're just there, they kick them out. And sometimes they're pretty rude, you know, they fall down because they're drunk. And then they will call the police, and the South Tucson police would go there and they will pick them up and they would beat them up sometime. So a group of us young guys, because we were macho, you know, we'd fight anybody, we're cool. We started jumping in and say, don't harass them. And, you know, we try to, you know, protect them from getting beat up. And then we get beat up and we go to jail. After a lot of, you know, the next day I come out of jail at South Tucson jail, I'm all bruised, beat up because they're beating me up, the police officers. I go home and I say, wow, this is crazy, but I didn't stop. But then I realized that that wasn't the way. I couldn't get beat up every time just because alcoholism, I don't, you know, I didn't, that was not for me. So it was pretty interesting, but then I said, I got to do protesting other ways. So I started looking for other people that were activists, and there's a lot of them in Indian country. And there's names that you guys don't know, but I've met a lot of them. And I started supporting their cause. I was part of the American Indian movement. You know, that didn't go too far because that wasn't a good organization. Because we weren't educating young people to go to school. We were the militant arm of the Indian power, Red Power, but we needed to send our kids to school. So I met Clyde Warrior from the National Indian Youth Council. In 1965, it was formed. Met his wife, Della Warrior. And they said, you know, Salsa, you can't keep getting beat up for these causes that people, it's a racist problem. You need to use your education to go to school and get a degree and start teaching yourself and other people to learn to change. Because the historical trauma is always going to be here for us. Like Tara was saying, there's historical trauma, but I think that we need to teach ourselves and our kids that to look different, to look at the world differently, and to memorize and always remember what they did to us. I'm talking about everybody that did something to us, and move on from there. Because if we don't do that, the next generation, you guys and your generation after you, are always going to be traumatized by historical trauma. As an Autumn man and warrior still, because I am a warrior, because in my family, nobody's ever say, Grandpa, sit down, you're not a warrior no more. And because I can still move and I can still defend women and children, I consider myself a warrior until I can't move no more. Then I'll have to say, I can't do this no more. But that's part of who I am. That's part of our family. And so I think about that sometime, and I think, you know, all this stuff was bad, and it puts me in a bad mood, and I'm mad. And then I feel sad for all the lives that were lost. But then I say, you know what? I got to do something different, because I can't live like this. And I don't want my grandchildren and my children to live like that. They need to pull themselves up and move forward. And the reason why I think that's important is because the 2010 census, United States Census, said there was 5.8 million of us in the United States. The 2020 census is for last year said there's 6.8 million. That's it. We got no more. If that doesn't wake you up and think like, there's no more, that's it. There was 100 million Native people in the New World in North America and in parts of Mesoamerica before the colonists came. And now there's 6.8. So with that in mind, I think that it's your responsibility to, you don't forget about the historical trauma, you don't forget about what they did to us. They took our land, they took our water, but you need to learn to get the strength and not to be scared to do something about it for yourself and for your children and the children that before, you know, coming after. It's not about us no more. It's about them, the future. Because if you don't set a path that you guys can set for them, then we're gonna always have historical trauma. You gotta break that cycle. That's what I think. And I may be different, but being a warrior, and this is what I think. We're gonna have casualties, alcohol, drugs, domestic violence. We have to, as a warrior, I have to accept those casualties, but try to help the majority move forward as a people. Because if I don't accept those casualties, I'm gonna have bad mental health. I'm gonna be depressed. And I can't allow that any people, any person in the world, any other human to make me feel that way. So I just wanted to say that for that. Does anybody have any? I think you guys, I know you guys feel the way I just said. I just don't, what I don't understand is that it has to, we have to start speaking out. I think that's the new thing for Native Americans. We've been hidden and we've been invisible for so long that even we can't even speak out within our own group of people. We don't say nothing. We just take it all inside, internalize it, and then, but we feel it other ways and we demonstrate it. We never say that it's okay if I'm not weak. I mean, if I'm weak, but it's okay. But we don't talk. We don't express our true feeling because we learn not to. And that's not right. We're human. We're who we are, and we have to believe it. If you don't believe it, then you live in somebody else's life.
Thank you. So we have we have a question.
Sure.
Addie, would you like to ask your question?
Sure.
Did you go to Standing Rock at all?
No, I did not. And I wasn't going to go because, you know, the Native, the American Indian movement, we're older people. A lot of people my age. What we do when we have these national crisis for people, we call each other up in our network and we raise money and we buy water and food and money. And we have one person in the region, it's all internal, and they go and we support them by helping them to go. And they're usually younger people, you know, people that are willing to be an activist, willing to go and see what's going to happen, because it's easy to say that I went to Standing Rock. It's easy to say that and be there with the crowd, but those frontliners that were getting sprayed with water and getting beat up and getting bit by dogs, that's a different group of activists. I wouldn't want to go over there and not stand in the front lines, but you know, I think as I get older, I'm thinking my job is not to do that no more. I did enough of that, but to help raise money for the cause, because you know all causes need money. You know, because you have to feed people, you have to give them water, you have to get them there. You got to do a lot of stuff. You got to pay for bills. So that's what I do, and that's what we do now. And I feel happy for that. I met Wendell NASEP for the Apache, for the water rights of the Apaches are trying to stop that mine. And he's getting older as well. We're not young, and we just kind of laugh and say, we can't run over there no more. We can't go all over the place no more. We kind of have to stay home. You know, and I think my home base will get mad at me and say, where are you going? I thought you quit doing that. You say you're never gonna do that no more. I just can't leave. That's not my excuse, but that's my reality.
Addie hasn't told you, but she's related to two people who were very active in two different capacities over at the No Dapple site. And she's lucky she has family members that are experienced in water quality and water rights. for her tribe. So they are Jody Tobacco and Lonnie Tobacco, and her mom Sharon. They were very big activists, and I'm honored to know her relatives.
Yes, and I was saying that earlier, that there's just a lot of us, they come out, they're all over.
Mhm.
And I think that's what I appreciate, the long list of activists. And there's a lot of activists that you don't even know that they're really doing a lot of stuff. Because there's a thing, I don't know if you know this, I'll just give you a little history, is that nobody has a good idea how Crazy Horse looked like. We don't have a drawing of him. He was a fighter, Sioux fighter. They tried to make a picture of him, Crazy Horse Monument, but nobody really knows. But he was so honored within his people because he led a lot of wars against battles against the cavalry. So they don't know of him. But in my culture, we believe that there's a lot of those people that do all these things and they're never going to get notoriety, but they're doing their work. And it's good that they work with the people that do get notoriety because they're the ones that are actually doing the work. And that's what I tell people, you know what, if nobody ever knows you in the world, but you help Mother Earth and you help protect water, you're doing your job. It's just something you do as a Native person. It's just something that's inherent. But I'm glad you have those people. Addie, I'm glad that, these people, because it makes you feel good. That's the internal feeling like, wow, I know these people, especially if you're related to them, because they're your role models.
Thank you, Celso. I think that you have been hitting the nail right on the head. When I told you about this presentation, I don't know if you all noticed, but the piece that Celso shared in the beginning about Mother Earth and everything, that was a spoken word piece that he created, and it made me feel really good and active, and made me want to do more for Mother Earth. So I don't know if that was something you all noticed, but that was like a poetry piece, an artistic piece. And then he went into his science, his hard science, where he was explaining arsenic and all the things that he does to make sure that he's protecting water for his community, and is also being really open now about his activism and what he's done throughout his life, putting his body on the line for community members, and now sending money with his cash that he says he makes now for working with the tribe to support people in different ways. And so I just want to point out a couple of those things and think it's really great that you all are asking questions and continue to ask them. I did want to give Isai an opportunity to introduce himself. I don't know if he has done so yet, but Isai also works with the nation doing water work, and he's taking those samples, monitoring the sensors that are collecting water information for the tribe. And he's also someone who did NASEP back in high school, just as you guys are doing. So Isai, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm logged in my computer and phone right now. But I'm Isai Flores. Sales is my grandfather. I'm Tonoata Manyaki. Did NASEP about 2014 to 2015, 2 years in a row. And I graduated from the U of A and MIS, which is kind of a business degree, but it works with technology and data analysis. And was back in 2020 over the pandemic. Well, I've been working here for water resources for about 4 months now, since March. And what my grandfather has told you is what I've learned. I basically throughout my life, he's taught me a lot of these philosophies and these ways of thinking as a Native person, or someone indigenous to the area we reside in. So I've worked more on the ground level stuff in terms of monitoring the water wells and basically going out to, it's a little bit of office and field work. So in the office, I work with software such as Microsoft or certain cloud-based stuff or other data software that monitors the weather stations. Weather stations are spread out throughout the whole nation. We make sure they're running for monsoon weather. Make sure their batteries are good, their loggers are good, and that's more of the hands-on groundwork stuff, and I'll send that to the people, the director and assistant director, and they'll give some input on that. And I'm still learning too, as well. As my grandfather mentioned, it does involve a little bit of water politics, and I'm learning that. But on top of that, I feel like, MIS is Management Information Systems, having that background I felt was really important because a lot of things are moving to digital now. We're not having as much paperwork or as much things in hand now. Things are transferred electronically. So I chose Management Information Systems because I felt that would help me maneuver through the world and assist the Tohono tribe as different functions. And as I'm learning from what my degree had taught me, I'm also learning on the job training, different ways to use my knowledge. And yeah.
And he's doing a good
questions?
job.
I hope I am.
You're fired. I'm just kidding.
Oh man. Oh. But yeah, what my grandfather's taught or had told you guys that I mean that's it's a lot of messages that I've heard in the past. So I've always carried those with me and helped me it helps motivate me, Sometimes I do like to be optimistic about things, but other times it's like I have to learn about a situation in and out from all perspectives. So by the way, I just graduated and the learning hasn't stopped, still going, learning various ways from my grandfather, from articles, from watching tutorials on different things. So it's all, and my degree it is in the College of Business, but I'm learning science at the same time. So I'm always thinking about maybe taking some part-time classes in something like hydrology or some biology courses. So that's important, the science aspect, especially within water quality or water departments.
Sounds like you've inspired him also to work with water. And that's another thing that I also want to point out too, is I think that you've done such great work to mentor youth. And as you said, you're getting older, you're still that warrior though, but that you want to make sure that you're putting your tribe and the earth and the community in good hands of young leaders like these folks, like your grandson and like the students who are on this.
That's true. Thank you for allowing me to speak here.
Does anybody have any questions for Isai or Celso, or want to, you can ask them about other things too. It doesn't just have to be related to water.
I have a question for Celso. So say you tested water and you found high levels of arsenic, and you have to treat it. Who how do you get funds for that? Does the tribe pay for it? Or do you have to get funds from different organizations?
No, what happens is that if TOUA, since they have to be testing that water for the public, finds out that they have arsenic at high levels that needs to be treated, they will we meet with them, and then they'll meet with the Indian Health Service, and the Indian Health Service will find the funding through the EPA to get money to treat that water. But the nation has to, our council has to prioritize which of the arsenic projects are they're going to fund. So there's a sanitation list that comes out by the tribe every year. And if it involves arsenic treatment, then and they qualify in the first 10 projects, then the Indian Health Service can go look for money within their own budget. And also they will ask the Environmental Protection Agency to provide extra money to cost share. And then they will give that money to the Tono Utility Authority. So there is no cost to the nation. But I have to tell you that as a director, I am telling our people to use gaming dollars set aside into an environmental trust fund so that if the federal government does not have any money to provide arsenic treatment plants to purify or to clean our water, we need to do that. And that's something I didn't want to say, but I'm to that point in my life where tribal water sovereignty to me means that we Indians, I just them, any tribe. I like Indians because that's what they called us a long time ago. We're Indians, and I figure I'll just keep with that because it was their fault for calling us wrong in our own land. But anyway, I think that we need to take control. We can't. I really don't like it when our nation gets money from the federal government. It's free, it's there, but there's always a nexus to it. There's always a link. And that's that trust responsibility that we have with the federal government. And sometimes it doesn't work. And I get tired of sometimes thinking, oh, we're waiting for even my council, when I go talk to them about project that you're just talking about, they will say, well, does the EPA have any money? Can you go out there, look for money? I'm thinking, you know what? We should do it ourselves, and we should set aside $1 million every year to do these projects. Why are we not being sovereign? Why are we not doing it ourselves? Why do we have to keep hanging on with the federal government? Like they're the ones that are handing out. That's where that old thing when I was young and we're being prejudiced and racist against white people and the government. We always say they always come and give us handouts and they say it's good enough for the Indians. And I'm thinking, I'm tired of that. We need to take over that and say it's good enough for us because we do it ourselves. We don't need your help. We could take it as a cost share, help you give us some money, but we'll match you and we will feel like we're part of it. But for us to wait for handouts sometimes makes me feel like, well, we're never going to break that cycle because we got to stand up on our own 2 feet. I think that's what I think. I think that's what I feel like. When I go to council and they say, well, did you ever apply for money from FEMA, for any agency? I just feel like telling them why. We have gaming. I'm only asking for, $600,000. You give the state of Arizona, I don't know how many millions of dollars just to keep them happy. How about our own people? Why are you going to keep? Anyway, that's my personal, and that's why I think that was a good question. But sometimes it brings out the rebel, the radical in me. Sometimes thinking, why? We haven't grown up yet. Are we still kids for the wards of the government? Is that what they used to call us? Anyway, sorry about that. Got crazy.
I don't think it's crazy. I think it's passion.
Can I ask one last question? I know you said you protested Vietnam. I was wondering if you went to the 1968 Democratic Convention in Chicago, that protest, the big one.
No, I did not. Actually, when I protested here in Tucson in front of the Santa Rita Hotel, which got burned down by a friend of mine, neighborhood friend, Louis. He was a black kid in our neighborhood, and he went to prison for 36 years because they said he burned down. And when we're neighbors, we're kids. He said he never wasn't even there, but anyway, they found him there, and they let him out about 10 years ago. And finally found out he didn't do it, but I'm just saying that because I protested him too. It was Lewis Taylor. They railroaded him. But anyway, but that Santa Rita hotel, we were marching back and forth, and the cops came and they were doing a lot of stuff for us. And I remember that there was a Navajo man, Dene man, who refused to go to Vietnam, and they burned their draft cards. So I went to support them too as well, because that was a Vietnam War was a war that was not with no objectives. We didn't win nothing. And you know, the way they were treating minorities here in the United States during that time was not good either. So a lot of us were saying, why should we fight for a war? Why should we fight a war for a country that we're prisoners of? That's how we used to talk, you know, when we were young. And so a lot of us protested. And so no, I didn't go to that 68. 68, I was a sophomore in high school, worried about playing basketball and football and baseball, and didn't have any money to go. That was I was telling you earlier, if somebody would have sponsored me, I would have gone, because they were sponsoring people for them, you know, to do a lot of stuff. But Indian Center in Tucson didn't have money for us. But that was a thought. I'm glad you brought that up. How did you know about that? That's kind of curious. How did you know about that?
I watched the movie and then I did my own research because I thought it was really cool because of Abby Hoffman and Tom Hayden.
Yeah, those crazy guys.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you, Celso.
Sure.
I will be leading the geoscience project, and have you ever judged posters, the students' poster boards?
Yes, I've seen a lot of, are you talking about like I don't know what they're called, but they're like posters of what they're doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
So my question for you that is, when you judge them, what are some of the criteria that you look for? A unique name, a lot of pictures, immaculate grammar. So what are some things that you look for that the students could kind of start getting an idea of the project, of how it should look?
Yeah, I think that's because I do a lot of science fair. When I do it as a judge, I look for presentation. I sometimes a good name catches you, like, you know, a good title, but I look for organization. I look for an introduction. What is it about? A little bit of how they got to that point and the results. But I also look for notes in their own handwriting that I could go through and say, oh yeah, you did actually did that, you know, like that. That's because that means that they just didn't, you know, get it off off the web. They actually said, you know, on day one I did this, and I tested the water. That way, when I look at it, I say, let me see your notebook, and then I look and say, it's a scientist. He's a scientist because he's actually putting down his thoughts, and then the conclusion needs to match the introduction. Like, you know, why you did this. And so what I'm explaining is a scientific method, actually. And, you know, and if you're going to do something where you're going to present something in science or math or engineering, you want to use some type of scientific method format, because that tells everybody, this is what I'm doing, introduction, this is how I did it, here's are my results, and here's my conclusion. Did I do what I intended to do? That's the primary. Any graphs are good. Any graphs, like I said, a field notebook or a notebook. But I think the best thing you can do, and this is the hardest thing you can do, is try to write science in simple language, because then people that are not scientists can understand what you're doing. Because if you talk to another scientist, especially when I talk to people that are other Native American scientists or Indian scientists in the Southwest, we talk at a different level. We're talking about theory and, you know, all this stuff. But when you talk to the public and they're looking at your stuff, you want them to understand. So I think that not to put maybe a 10th grade level of writing, just to tell them this is what I'm doing. It doesn't have to be elaborate. I've seen a lot of things where they cram so much information, you just turns you off because you can't read it. You just want to say this. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions from students?
I counted the questions. There wasn't too many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding because what I do is that I really want you guys to speak out and to, maybe not to me, but you those thoughts that are you're thinking right now in your head, you know, they got to be put from your head outward through your speech, because that's what you do, because that's what you should be doing. You have stories in your mind, but for some reason, when we ask a Native person, you have any questions, everybody like, yeah. But I was like that when I was younger, so I have to take credit that I wasn't who I am now. But once in a while, I would have a question. And sometimes the person that was presenting did not have the answer. But then I had to go look for it myself. And then I found the answer. And I realized that, hey, I'm a scientist. I want to know. And I think that's what humanity is. I think we all want to know what's going on. And we want to be in control of those situations. But I'm just letting you know, you're young people, you're not going to ask the question, but it's fine with me. But I hope that you develop to be an advocate for yourself, an advocate for your people, and an advocate for humanity, and an advocate for Mother Earth. Remember, if she goes, we go with her. Believe that. We're not flying to Mars. We're not rich enough to fly to Mars or move to another planet. When our mother dies, we will die with her. But until that happens, let's protect her. And let's be proud of who she is, because when she gave us all of this area and she gave us oxygen to breathe and everything, she did it with a purpose. We're her children. And if we don't believe that, then we're living on the wrong planet. We're living on a planet made of money. And that's here already. We don't need that. So we need to go back home to Mother Nature. And if anybody asks you, does Salso talk for Mother Earth? You can tell them I talk for Mother Earth, because she can't talk for herself. And you guys should too. You guys should carry a t-shirt that says, I speak for Mother Earth. And she'll be proud of it, because nobody's listening. Other peoples are not listening. They're living this lifestyle in a short time period, and they're getting the best out of it. While the rest of us, while Native people, indigenous people are trying to just get by, and we still respect her. So anyway, I know I'm getting carried away, but thank you very much. I'm glad I was speaking to you guys. I have to do the quarterbacking now and hope that I said something worthwhile. Plus, I'm gonna eat.
Thank you, Celso, and thank you, Isai, for being here. Before we break, are you fine with doing a photo? It's just going to be like a screen grab from the computer. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Okay, and so if people can start putting their videos on. Unfortunately, Rudy is not here, but he did say to make sure that he passed his thanks along to Isai and Celso. But he's the one who has the computer that fits everybody. So we're gonna have to do multiple screens on this. All right, so since it's a weird way for me to do it on my computer, just keep smiling the whole time. Like you don't got time to blink your eyes or look away. So just keep smiling. I'll count it down. 1, 2, 3. Keep it like that. Keep it like that. Kiara, I told you didn't have time to do nothing. Sorry, we got her yawning. So we're gonna do it again. Let me save it. Okay, let's see. Save it. All right. right, let me open it again. You have a break. You can rest your face if you need to, and then I'll count it down again. All right, everybody smile. 1, 2, 3, stay there. Perfect. That one was good.
Hey, Carol, I never smiled so long in my life. I don't smile. Here's my job.
You can
All right, we'll see you guys.
So do you have an email, or can I get your email information from Carol?
Yes.
Because I have some questions for you as a student as well. I would like to talk to you about a couple of things.
Okay. Yeah,
All right,
see,
awesome.
Carol, she can give it to, Carol can give it to you.
Great.
Thank you.
And then if the students have questions, I'll share that one as well. But before we break, I want to extend my sincerest gratitude for Celso for being here, for Isai for being here. I want to point out that these test kits that we sent to you all and that we're going to be using, these are water quality test kits. And so we're going to be using them for our water quality projects, for our geoscience projects. And so thank you from us for providing these tools for our students, and also for being here and talking to us today. We're really appreciative for all that you continue to do, and we're thankful that you are so inspirational in building up the youth and future Native leaders and current leaders of the community. So if I can have everyone unmute themselves, and we can say thank you and cheer and clap for Celso and Isai for being here today. So I'll watch while everyone unmutes, and then I'll count us down. So start unmuting, folks. Start unmuting. Got almost everybody. Start unmuting. All right, great. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
You're welcome, and bye. I'm going to leave.
Bye.
By Celso, by Isai, sorry, I think I was muted. So students, you have a break for 10 minutes. We'll come back at 11. So do what it is that you got to do in order to be awake for the next session. Thank you all for your participation and your lovely questions. And we look forward to hearing more from our next presenters. Thank you, Isai. Isai, if students have questions about business, are they able to ask you? Because I know a couple students said that they're interested in business and something that has to do with STEM or math.
Yes, of course. I'm able, I guess, either like the student panel or individually, I can answer questions about business, especially at the U of A.
Cool, great, thank you so much. I have your email. Is that the most appropriate way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Tell
Of course.
Your supervisor we said hi, because I know he knows about NASEP.
I will. Oh yeah, I will.
For letting
Thank
you be here.
Appreciate it. Thank you for inviting.
Mhm.
Bye.
Alrighty, sounds good. Let me see if my co-presenter here is connected to the audio. Lisa, are you able to connect? Okay, Carol, Lisa is still trying to connect. We're having some issues with the access to audio.
On my end or something that's technical?
On our end.
Okay. Oh, it says it's connecting right now.
Okay.
Cool. So as we're talking about drinks, I'll tell you Rudy's favorite drink. It's Diet Cherry Coke. I think that's the only thing Rudy drinks. No water, just cherry Diet Coke.
I know, I was hearing y'all's discussion about caffeine. I was like, meanwhile, I got my Dutch Bros right here. I don't know who here likes Dutch Bros, but I'm a big fan. we have a debate in our office because our boss, Ben, he like loves Starbucks. I'm like, nah, that's not it. That's not the business. It's all about Dutch Bros. Okay, and I see Lisa.
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Could you hear me just now? Okay. I think I got it then.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Lisa, do you want to start out with introductions?
Yeah, sure. So I can start off. Sorry about that. I was having some trouble with my laptop audio. So I had to connect to my phone. But my name's Lisa, and I work at the Southwest Environmental Health Sciences Center here with Zani. I'm a senior at the University of Arizona studying public health with an emphasis on health promotion. So I worked on a couple of different programs here in the office. One of my programs actually just ended, which was for high school students. It was in a partnership with Upward Bound called Environmental Scholars.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself. Yat Eshe Zani Olivas Yaneshia Hashkanazo Nishle Nakai Bashachi Nakai Erashanala do Sinjakina Erashache. Good morning, everyone. That was my introduction in my Navajo language. My name is Zani Olivas. I am half Navajo and half Mexican. I am from Phoenix, Arizona. I currently serve as the program coordinator for the Southwest Environmental Health Sciences Center. So Lisa and I work really close together. And we both oversee our own respective programs. So my program, Lisa's just ended. Mine actually begins next week on Monday, which is really exciting. We have a cohort of 12 students for a program called the Our Land, Our Education, and Our Health program, or OLE. And my education background is I received a Bachelor of Science in Public Health with an emphasis on environmental and occupational health. I also did a lot of research in my undergraduate years, got to participate in all kinds of different research internships, as well as like college readiness programs. So it's really cool that you guys are in NASEP. I think you guys are already one step ahead of the game. It's nice to meet you all. And so kind of going today with our presentation. So we're going to talk about some of the work we do at the Southwest Environmental Health Sciences Center. And so in talking to Carol, who is also, I should mention, one of my sisters through an organization called Alpha Pi Omega. It's a Native American sorority. So Carol has always served as a mentor and role model to me, as kind of, I guess, being like an older sister that I've never had. So you guys are really fortunate to have her as your coordinator and get to work with Carol. So I'm like, y'all listen and pay attention to her. She's awesome. So yeah, with that, Carol wanted to kind of have us present today, or invited us to present today to introduce you to the topic of environmental health and some of the work that our center does, but kind of framing it through an Indigenous lens. Okay, so Lisa, do you want to lead us in this slide?
Sorry about that. So environmental health, something that we like to say in public health all the time is One Health. So that just means that the health of like our environments, where we work, play, and learn, and the health of us are all interconnected. So anything as small as like the health of insect populations has kind of a rippling effect on the health of the populations that live there. So just like this circle says right here, it goes into policy, laws, definitely agriculture, industry, and then in the smaller circle in the center, we can see people, their bodies, their choices, and their activities. So it all plays a role in kind of what individualized health is, and then the health of populations. We have a quick little, before we go into the definition, a poll everywhere that we would like you guys to participate in, and just tell us an example of when you've seen a public health issue in your community, or like what exactly you think public health is. So I'm going to put that link into the chat, and then Yeah, okay, that's right. Link. Okay. Yeah, so that link is in the chat right now. And if you could just, it's going to create like a word cloud of all of the responses that you guys put in. Okay, I see mass. Let's see, access, water, clean, all great examples. Okay, I see a little.
Does anybody need help working on this, or does everyone got it? You can give me thumbs up if you got it. You're working on it. See a couple thumbs up. Good. If you're having any issues, let us know.
And I'll just share my screen real quick so you guys can see the responses of your peers. Oh, I actually don't have the capability.
Let me go ahead and do that.
Okay. Thank you.
I think I might have done it to the audio part. Do you have access now? Hold on, let me see. Let me see. Got it now? Yes.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, can everybody see this?
Yes.
All right, so this is what we have so far. I see a lot of people put water, so that's really big. I see community, environmental, burning, helpers, workers, clean. These are all really great examples. We'd love to make our presentations really interactive, so we want to know what you guys think. Does anybody want to, maybe somebody who put water, kind of want to elaborate a little bit of what you mean by water?
Also, too, a famous saying in our office is if those who don't volunteer, you're going to get voluntold. That's what our director likes to say. So we will scroll down through the names and pick somebody. So go ahead and volunteer. And me personally, I'm really interested in who put uranium, because I'm like, okay, heavy metal contamination. All right, that's something I'm familiar with and have researched. So the brave individual who put uranium, would you like to elaborate on that? Like, how did you know that that was something linked to environmental health?
I put uranium, but I just wanted to be quiet for a second in case somebody else also put uranium. But in terms of how it's related to environmental health, it's coming from the environment. And as we learned from Dr. Celso Villegas before, I know that there's a difference between a toxin and something else, which I'm sure you're going to tell us. But it impacts our health because if we're breathing in uranium or drinking it, being exposed to it in any way, it can cause cancer.
Yes, Carol. Okay. That was a really good example. So a really big environmental health issue within Indigenous communities is exposure to heavy metal contamination in our natural resources. So a heavy metal like uranium is really harmful because if you are exposed to it over a prolonged period of time, it can have really negative impacts on your health. And so one of the routes of exposure is ingestion, like Carol mentioned. So I know at least on the Navajo reservation, access to clean drinking water is limited. I don't know about anyone else here, but like my aunties, my nollies, they have to drive several hours or, get a ride to go to a drinking well to get their water. So they don't have easy access and aren't able to just turn on the tap like we are, or go to the local, supermarket to go and pick up bottled water. A lot of times they rely on groundwater as their primary drinking water source, or their source to, do dishes and do, wash clothes and things like that. And so because of that exposure and not having access to the clean drinking water, without their knowing, they're putting harmful, like heavy metal contaminants in their body. So that was a really good example. Let's see here. I'm going to pick on, let's see, Ko, the mathematician. What are some examples of environmental health that you've witnessed in your community, or would you like to try to define environmental health for us?
Well, I was the one who put mask, so just wearing a mask so you don't get people sick and so they don't die. That's keeping them healthy.
Yep. Very good example, Ko. Thank you. So with our recent COVID, well, we're still in a pandemic. A lot of people think it's over, but for a lot of our communities, it's definitely something that we are still, practicing social distancing and wearing our masks and things like that. We're all familiar with mask wearing as a way to mitigate the spread of disease. So yeah, that was a really good example. I'm going to pick on one more person here. Let's see. All right. Azure Engineering, our future engineer here. Would you like to give an example of what environmental health is?
Yeah, so I think environmental health is like the health that is the relationship between the people and the environment. So one of the examples I used was water quality. So I live in Cameron, Arizona, and the water quality is really bad because also, yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Hey, thank you for that. My family's from Cameron. So that's where we have our family reunions and things like that. So yes, I'm very familiar with the area. So that was a really good example. Thank you. And it's also nice to see someone who is also from my relatives community. So shout out to Cameron. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate your input. Lisa, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I was just going to say these are all really great examples, and I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. But we also recognize that maybe if you can't unmute yourself or you're a little bit shy, feel free to use that chat feature and we'll be looking out for answers in there too. So I really just want to hear what you guys think and kind of your perspective on everything that we're presenting today.
Yes, thanks, Lisa. That's a really good point. Can everyone see my PowerPoint slide again? Yes? Okay, perfect. I have the thumbs up. So we all with that exercise, we all explored different, examples of what environmental health is. And all of you did a really great job because yeah, that's essentially what environmental is. It's looking at the relationship between the environment that surrounds you. It can be your indoor environment, your outdoor environment, the people you interact with, the animals you interact with, different resources. So like air, soil, water, the food you put into your body, those are all aspects that fall under the umbrella of environmental health. So we're looking at how all those things impact our, human wealth and human health and quality of life. And so here, just to give you a little, I guess, a more formal definition of what environmental health is. This is a definition provided by the National Environmental Health Association. So it's the science and practice of preventing human injury and illness and promoting well-being by identifying and evaluating environmental sources and hazardous agents and limiting exposures to hazardous physical, chemical, and biological agents in air, water, soil, food, and other environmental media or settings that may adversely affect human health. So I know that's like a real bland, like textbook definition, but it does perfectly like sum up what environmental health is, and as well as some of the key aspects that an environmental health scientist or professional is going to look at. Because what we really want to understand is not only the environment or that surrounds somebody, but what those components of the environment are beneficial to health, as well as those that are hazardous to health. And then once we have an understanding of what people are exposed to, whether good or bad, we can then come up with public health interventions and practices that help limit exposures to bad things such as like chemicals, like uranium, such as like the example that Carol gave, and identify ways to make sure that we are keeping our populations healthy and well. And then here, what does an environmental health professional or specialist do? So this again is a pretty like bland, again, like list of what a environmental health professional does, but they investigate, they sample, they measure and assess hazardous environmental agents. So an example of this I like to give is from my own work that I did as a undergraduate researcher. So I was able to collect water samples from different households on the Navajo reservation and was able, so that was me going out into the community to collect those water samples, bringing them back to the University of Arizona, where I then prepped them for laboratory analysis, laboratory chemical analysis. So I took those samples, did some pipetting, handed them over to our chemical agents specialized laboratory where they use a lot of fancy machinery to identify how much of heavy metals and like contaminants are present in the water. And then it spits out a bunch of data or numbers that tells you, okay, this is how much uranium is present in the water. This is how much chloride is present in the water. This is how much arsenic is present in the water. So looking at those numbers and then deciding, okay, are those numbers within a normal range or an abnormal range? Should we be concerned about it? Are they too high? Are they too low? Like what's going on with the water there? So that's an example of going out into the environment, sampling and measuring. And then the recommendation piece. So recommend and apply protective interventions that control hazards to health. To kind of go back to my example. So in the water samples we looked at, we did realize that there was a high concentration of arsenic. So because we were able to identify that the numbers were too high, we could then turn over that information to the governing agency and be like, hey, look, arsenic is high in this particular water source, which it just happened to be a ground well. We recommend that it should be lower at this point. This is what's considered safe. So we need to think of ways to inform the community so that they aren't drinking that water and being exposed to the hazards that are in it. So that's kind of developing recommendations from that science and then providing health communications about it so that the community can be aware and make educated decisions based on that. Another thing that environmental health profession does is create educational materials. So not only do we work with different governing agencies, such as like say the Environmental Protection Agency, as well as like tribal governments that have usually their own environmental protection offices. But we also create, educational materials that we can share with community members, such as like brochures, flyers, infographics, videos. Also, we come on, Zoom calls similar to this, where we talk about different environmental issues and try to spread awareness. So there's a number of ways that environmental health professionals get this information out to the public. And then we help engage the community so that they can better understand, address, and resolve these problems. A big piece of being an environmental health professional is to not only be able to understand the science, but able to translate that science or promote science literacy to the community so that they get an understanding of it. And so science literacy is something that we promote deeply in our office. And the example I'm going to give is, being a student that usually say, first generation, say your parents, like, for example, like my Nana, she's not going to understand, oh, okay, uranium exposure or lethal dose amount or LD50. She's not going to understand those types of really technical jargon, environmental health terms. So when it depends on the audience that you're talking to, but as a scientist, it's our job to recognize who's in the room so that we can properly convey the scientific information and break it down in a way that is understandable and meaningful to them. Because if you use all those big words, like I said, your Nana, your tias, aunts, uncles, cousins, they're not going to understand or not going to care because they're like, oh, what is this person talking about? I have no idea. So a big part of being an environmental health scientist is not only being really familiar and educated about those terms, but being able to break them down so that you can converse with the right audience. Let's see, go to the next slide. So what do we do? So again, Carol invited us, and Lisa and I are here on behalf of the Southwest Environmental Health Sciences Center. And a big question that we get is, well, what does your center do? What do you guys do? So Lisa and I both being program coordinators, we kind of wear many different hats. Our center is responsible for all different types of outreach. Lisa, did you want to kind of expand or kind of explain some of this, and then I can jump in?
Yeah, of course. I think one of the big things I like to say about our center is that we never do things for people, we do things with people. So we always work in partnership with the community. They tell us what they're looking for from us, and then we work with them to kind of facilitate whatever it is that they need or they're looking for. So a lot of this, especially in the summertime, is in the form of summer youth programs. So we have a number of them going on right now. ASJ, which is short for a student's journey, actually just started yesterday, and that's in tandem with the Tohono O'odham Nation. And they're actually going to be here on campus, I think, for the next 2 weeks, living in the dorms. So a lot of that is just like, what do they need? What are some things that are kind of concerning them? And then we build that bridge with whoever can kind of help that situation the most. Maybe that's us, maybe that's a researcher, maybe that's another community partner, but we try to find those connections for them and work, like I said, with them and not for them, because they know best what they need, not us.
Like, yes, Lisa, that was perfect. So as I have really nothing else to add to what Lisa said, because that's exactly right. We work with communities based on what their needs are, not because we're a big research institution and that we're going to tell the communities what they need. They tell us what they need, not the other way around. And so that's something that our center prides itself on. And that's also a reason why I was drawn to work for SHWEC as a program coordinator, is because I know that they really care about the people that they're working with and not the other way around. Because I have been in laboratories or other settings on campus where, it's more so the experts are telling what people in the community should do versus actually listening to what their needs are. And I didn't agree with that. So that's what kind of drew me to, come to work for SHWEC. And I'm sure Lisa can agree with that. And so just to describe some of the pictures that we have up. So here we have one of our students in the top left. She's pipetting. She's in one of our, so each student is placed in a laboratory. This is an environment, it's called a STEP System student or a STEP System program. We prepare students with a laboratory like research mentor. So here's a student here conducting research, doing some bench work. We do a lot of community outreach events. So a lot of it's been virtual lately, but when we were in person, as you can see here, we have our former program coordinator, his name is Cheyenne. He's here doing some outreach with the youth. We also have, tabling. So this is one that I got to participate in, where we went to the San Carlos tribe for their Earth Week festivities and got to show some lung models. We talked about respiratory kind of anatomy and how air quality impacts respiratory health. So right here, you see like an air monitor, you see our Indigenous Stewards magazine, which I understand Carol made you guys read for homework. So yeah, we're very proud of that magazine. So we do a lot of tabling events where we're able to give some of those educational materials out to the public. Here we have more summer program students. This is some of another example of our educational or outreach materials. So there's a brochure or a trifold showing the health impacts of trash burning. Here we have our group photo where we visited Flowers and Bullets, which is a local community organization that does really great work to promote Indigenous like food sovereignty. So we do a lot of different things and we collaborate with different people. So I'm really proud of like the work we do. Does anyone have any questions about it? Oh, and Ben would like to add that volume 5 is coming out soon. So yes, keep your eye out for our next volume of the Indigenous Stewards magazine. It's something that we come out with on a yearly basis. Okay, and so what Lisa touched on really, gave a really great definition of what our approach is when it comes to working with communities. So here, this is a image of what's called the Indigenous Inquiry Framework. And so this perfectly kind of summarizes what our approach is in working with Indigenous community members. Because as a center, unfortunately, we do recognize that the history between Indigenous communities and researchers hasn't always been a positive one. Because I mean, you have these, primarily white institutions coming in, telling Indigenous community members that, hey, this is a problem that I see in your community. I'm just going to come in here and tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you how to go about this. We're going to take all this data for, science. We're going to publish a bunch of papers on it. But we're not really going to involve you in that process. We're just kind of going to use you guys as like guinea pigs, for example, and figure out all this stuff. And so unfortunately, that negative those negative collaborations or partnerships with like tribes, or lack of partnership, I should say, with tribes, has created a sense of mistrust. It's also a big reason why, as researchers, it is our duty to really make sure that we avoid making those same mistakes, especially in working with Indigenous populations. And so with that, our center did kind of develop our former program coordinators, as well as our former center director. They came together and created what's called the Indigenous Inquiry Framework, so that it ensures that Indigenous people are at the forefront of the decision making that's based on their needs and not our own. And that whatever comes out of our collaboration, whether it be data or a written publication or things like that, those things are turned over to the community versus to us. They tell us what we're allowed to do with it versus the other way around, because that's information that belongs to them and not to the university as a whole. Some of the things you see here is community, sovereignty. They're in those outer circles, and culture, self-determination. And so a big thing, and on the inner circles, you see dissemination, relationship building, planning, and implementation. So all of these different pieces of this framework, we are not doing this alone as a center. We're doing this in collaboration with the community that we're working with. They're part of every single aspect of this step, every aspect of this framework. And so here, this is just kind of summarizing, again, what I was saying about the historical misconduct and research with Indigenous communities. Again, there's that lack of trust and hesitancy to work with institutions. One of the things that I've had to become more familiar with as a researcher, and as like a, even as a student who wants to go back and help her own community, is, realizing that you have to have a certain level of cultural sensitivity, cultural awareness, come into it with an open mind, and always being ready to learn something. Even as an Indigenous person going into a community, I'm always like, okay, I want to make sure that even though I'm coming in, say I'm going to the Navajo Nation to talk to them about a project, I don't want to come in there being like, oh, well, I have all this academic background and being Navajo automatically gives me a seat at the table. That's not the case. You know, you go in being respectful and you go in listening to still like what your elders or your colleagues have to say and what their concerns are, even as a fellow Indigenous person. Also too, so our center is very much aware of this negative history between researchers and Indigenous communities. So that's again what led to the development of this framework. And so therefore our goal as a center is to engage in environmental health science research with the communities, bring researchers into the communities to conduct projects in collaboration to address questions that they may have. So I underline collaboration because that's the biggest thing is we want to build trust, we want to build a relationship, and that we realize takes a lot of time and effort. And we have to do that first before, you know, starting any project that we might, you know, have. Does anyone have any questions so far about any of these concepts or slides that I had brought up? Okay, wait, Carol, can we do can you say something just so, because I think my earphones died.
Oh, I see. Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me, Sonny? So
Sorry about that. She
Oh.
can't. I can hear you, but I think she's just working on her audio right now. Okay, I think we got it back.
I was like, gotta love technology, guys. I was like, my AirPods died, so I'm just like, wow, okay, now I can't hear anybody. I'm sorry, Carol or Lisa, was there any questions about what I had said so far, or no?
I think they're digesting the information.
What was that?
I think they're digesting the information and taking.
Got it. Understandable. I'm like, I know it was a lot. Let's see.
I have a question actually.
Uh-huh.
So in the beginning, when you're listing like all of like the responsibilities of like environmental health workers, is that just one job, like where you outreach with the community, where you like collect samples and like do all that stuff? Or is there like different jobs specific within like environmental health and it's just like a broad category?
Oh, that's a really good question. Thank you, Antonio. I see environmental engineer. Is that what you're interested in pursuing? That's awesome. Actually, our new director for our center, Dr. Paloma Beamer, her background is in engineering. So with environmental health, and Lisa, please chime in if I'm forgetting anything, but so environmental health is such a broad, I guess, like umbrella or facet of public health. So all the different things that you saw listed for what an environmental health professional does are examples, and not just one person does that for a job. I mean, you can, if you say you want to be like an environmental health researcher and you want to be involved in every step of like that research project, then maybe you would complete all of those things. But environmental health, it has so many different professions that you can go into, different specialties. So researcher isn't just like one of the jobs. There's also actually environmental engineering. That's something that also can actually fall under the umbrella of environmental health. You could specifically be someone who focuses on, say, I don't know, soil science or biology. So you look at a very certain piece of the environment, and then that can translate into environmental health. We also have occupational health professionals who work for corporations or businesses where they say, okay, so these might be the hazards in the workplace. How can we make sure that we're keeping our workers safe? So So yeah, there's a lot of different jobs. Lisa, I was like, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I was just gonna say to echo what Zani said, health in itself is like a team effort. So it takes like, you're gonna be working with physicians, community members, policy workers, engineers, everybody kind of works together to facilitate their own expertise. And that's how you create lasting programs. So you want something that the community feels like they're a part of and that is sustainable and can last years beyond. If you leave this community and you go somewhere else, this program can stand on its own. And in order for it to do that, you need more than just one person to do it. So it really takes a team to really get stuff like this off the ground and to keep it sustainable.
I was gonna say very true. Oh, go ahead, Carol.
I was gonna say, I don't know if folks noticed, but on the chat, if you can just put one thing that you learned about environmental health in the chat. It could be a sentence, it could just be a phrase, but one thing you learned. Something that I do want to bring up that is related to environmental health and is in relation to tribal communities is, correct me if I'm wrong, was Dr. Paloma Beamer the one who worked with the Gold King mine spill work at all? Did she do stuff with that? So I don't know if you want to talk about that. I know that there's some folks from the New Mexico area and also people from the Diné Nation here that might be interested to learn more about what that was. And if you want to give a brief intro, because I don't know if everyone is aware of it.
Yeah, so Dr. Paloma Beamer, so it was a project in collaboration. So there's Dr. Paloma Beamer, Dr. Carletta Chief, as well as like their team of graduate students. I believe there's some partners, some members from Diné College who also participated on that project. Again, that's a good example of kind of what Antonio's question was like demonstrating is, in order to address an environmental health problem, it really does take a team. So for example, like Dr. Carletta Chief, she is an esteemed researcher here at the U of A, and her background's in hydrology. And then Dr. Paloma Beamer, her background is like in environmental engineering. And I know for their project, they worked with like an array of different professionals. So the Gold King mine spill project, is there anyone who's familiar with the Gold King mine spill? Well, just I guess Gold King mine spill.
Is anyone aware of the Gold King mine spill? I think it happened a couple years ago. Michaela, are you putting your hand up? Anybody? Gold King mine spill?
I'm typing.
Oh, you are? Oh, okay, sorry. Anybody familiar with the Gold King mine spill? Kiara, are you familiar with the Gold King mine spill?
I know about it, but not too much to actually speak on it.
What do you know about it?
Just that it was like was it like a mining incident that caused like uranium to like pollute the water sources that ultimately affected the communities surrounding it, or like that the communities had access to, and so that kind of just ultimately impacted their health and then everything else that cascaded from it.
Yes, I think you got the gist of it.
Yeah, I was like, that was a really good kind of like synopsis of what the Gold King mine spill was. So the Gold King mine spill occurred, I think it was like in August, like 2015, near Silverton, Colorado. And so the big thing about it is that due to the spill, like millions of gallons of toxic wastewater flowed down into the Animas River and then into the San Juan River, which poses a huge, I guess, hazard to human health because of the heavy metal contaminants, like you mentioned, arsenic, getting into that water source that, people rely on for agriculture, as well as for, say, like drinking water and just day-to-day use. So there's people and animals that rely on that animal or that rely on that water from the San Juan River. And so the fact that it was contaminated from the Gold King mine spill posed a huge threat. And so some of the researchers here at the University of Arizona, a part of like the Superfund research program, they were given a huge grant to look into the environmental health impacts of the Gold King mine spill, to measure the level of contamination from the wastewater. And then from that research, they were able to develop a set of recommendations that would inform policy on how to keep people safe from the aftermath of that spill. So that's like a great example. I was like, thank you, Carol, of environmental health in action, because that's a real, world problem that impacted lots of people as well as the environment. So it took like a team of researchers and scientists and community members to come together to help address or to lessen or mitigate that issue. And it's really cool because we have some of our own awesome researchers from our institution that worked and were key players in the Gold King mine spill project. Okay, so what we wanted to do next is we wanted to kind of show a couple of examples of like the real world work that we did. We talked about the Indigenous Inquiry Framework and kind of our center's approach to working with Indigenous populations. So we wanted to highlight some of the work we do with our Indigenous communities. Lisa, do you have the video? We wanted to show you a little video. It's a virtual lab tour that we were able to record with, he's used to be one of our interns in our center. His name's Adam Carl. He's from the Hopi tribe. He's now going to be a first-year medical school student. He just recently completed and defended his thesis for his master's program in environmental health. So we're really proud of him. But this is an example of some of the collaborations we do with U of A researchers.
Yeah, I have that video right now, and then I will go ahead and share my screen and try to also share the audio so you guys can hear. Let me just play it, and then you guys tell me if you can hear it or not.
I can't hear it just yet. Do you need help with the audio? I think when you're screen sharing, if you go to where it says options, it will say share audio.
University of Arizona College of Public Health. In addition, I am also a graduate research assistant to Dr. Jeff Root.
Okay, could you guys hear that?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Is it possible to make it a little bit louder?
So the AZ Heroes COVID-19 study is a novel study. As researchers, we are looking at infection rates, reinfection rates, and activity patterns among frontline essential workers and first responders and other healthcare workers. Specifically, what we do is we process all the samples, such as blood,
progressively got quieter.
I see. Yeah, Carol, did you say it cut out again?
Yeah, I think that if you and Lisa are near the same space, it might be giving some Zoom feedback, because that's what happens sometimes when our team's in the same room. I don't know if that's what it's doing, but for the audio, we could hear it a little bit in the beginning and then it progressively got a little bit quieter.
Oh, okay, I think I found that. Where you share this.
Negative 81 degrees Celsius. So in these freezers, we have our.
Did you guys hear that?
Yes, that was good.
Okay.
Vaccine samples, we have our baseline samples, and we have our second draw samples. And these are just dispersed across all of freezers throughout the lab.
And after we could start.
We have students who help us assemble sampling kits. So in these kits are nasal swabs where individual participants can take their own COVID-19 nasal swab and send it back to us, and then we're able to analyze whether they become COVID positive. Our main area where a lot of the business takes place, we have a lot of the incoming samples are labeled and what needs to be sent out to the CDC for further testing. Here we just have some pictures of our first responders who take part in a lot of our studies. Dr. Jeff Burgess works heavily with the firefighters here in Tucson, and they are a big part in this study. And this area is where a lot of the, like I said before, the business takes place. We have Sally, our lab manager. She takes care of all the administrative stuff. She also preps the samples for us. She is a superstar. So this small area is where I will aliquot blood samples. And what that means is I essentially just take the blood samples from one big tube and place it into 10 little tubes. So these little tubes are right here. So I would get the blood sample from the big tube, stick it in my pipette right here, draw the blood from one spot, and put it all in 10 little vials. So I would do this throughout the day. I say we get approximately about 30 to 40 blood samples that come in per day. And once that is done, I label the boxes whether they came from an individual who just received their first COVID-19 vaccine, or if they became ill with COVID, and we collect blood after they become ill. And so we just do that for every single participant who joins the AC Hero study. Here's where I come and get my samples that need to be processed. Once they are prepared by Sally, our lab manager, I just come and open the freezer and I pull whichever ones need to be aliquoted or separated. So in this room, we centrifuge our blood samples. So what that means is that this machine is going to spin our samples so fast for about 20 minutes, and the end product will look something similar to this. So at the bottom will be the red blood cells. This isn't a blood sample. This is another sample, but at the bottom would be very dark red where you'd see the red blood cells. And on the top, you would see a creamy yellow color, which is the plasma. In this plasma, we are looking for the antibodies, which are also known as proteins. And Once they're centrifuged, I'm able to take it back to my area and pipette it and send it off for analysis. I've been a part of the AZ Heroes COVID-19 study since August of 2020. This was also when I began my Master of Science in Environmental Health Sciences program. I have been a part of also 2 other research studies, the Hopi Environmental Health Project and a valley fever study at the University of Arizona College of Medicine. So I didn't know that I always wanted to do research. I didn't even know what environmental health sciences was when I entered University of Arizona. So if you don't know, essentially environmental health sciences allows us researchers and other scientists to identify potential triggers to diseases, such as environmental exposures. What I found so unique about this was I knew I could gain training in public health research prior to entering medical school. And this would help me as a physician to think a lot about the triggers to these diseases from an environmental health and a public health perspective, and not only from a clinical perspective. I knew when I entered the University of Arizona that I wanted to become a physician. However, I didn't know that physicians also take part in research studies. They play a big role in many of them. I was introduced to research by one of my grandfathers, who was a research field technician on the Hopi Reservation for the Hopi Environmental Health Project, is that I'm not only helping other scientists better understand these diseases, but I'm also helping the general population, my own tribal community, and other tribal communities across the state of Arizona understand how these different diseases work and how they're triggered. On the AZ Heroes COVID-19 study, one of my jobs is to help recruit tribal participants and how to potentially get these individuals to take part in our study. And so what I find so unique about this field of study is that you're not working with just one individual. Rather, you're working with an entire population, an entire community whom you may have deep connections with. For me, it was my Hopi community. I was able to tell them how their actions or how their living environment can contribute to these different diseases like asthma and other respiratory outcomes. And this is the same deal with COVID-19. I am able to let our first responders, healthcare providers, and other essential workers understand how they can become exposed to COVID-19. When I thought of research as a freshman here at the University of Arizona, I thought of an individual who sat in a lab all day working with cells. And I haven't had that experience over the past 3-4 years. I have been able to find an interest in public health research, which has a different approach. There's a lot of community engagement. I was able to interact with tribal community members in northeastern Arizona. I was able to go into their homes and collect samples to then create culturally relevant research results packets and then go back into these individuals' homes and interpret those results for them. They felt comfortable in that they could trust me when I entered their home and I asked them if I could take a biological sample, or if I could take their water sample, or if I could ask them certain questions that could help us better understand environmental exposures in rural and underserved communities in Arizona. So my advice to you is to be open to learning new concepts. Be willing to engage in different areas of research. I never knew that I would be part of public health research, identifying exposures in rural communities and even across the state of Arizona now, as the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has heavily impacted every single person across the world. So to just wrap everything up, I wanted to let all of you know that it's possible to pursue any type of career that you wanted to in the STEM field. I am actually going to be the first doctor in my family in 4 years, and research really did help me reach this goal. So if any of you have any questions, I'm sure you could reach out to Ben Richmond and he will give you my contact information. Again, my name is Adam Carl, and I just wanted to thank all of you for taking the time to come with me today and
hearing my experiences in the research field and hearing about the AZ Heroes COVID-19 study. Thank you.
All right, I apologize for the technical difficulties we have at the beginning, but I hope you guys could all hear it towards the end.
Yeah, it was a great video. We could hear it.
Okay, thank you. And we have a couple of more minutes if anybody has any questions or comments that they want to give.
Oh, I was gonna say,
Sorry.
oops. Sorry, Lisa and I are literally like back to back here in the same office, so that's why you hear all the feedback. So I wanted to say that our associate director did join us, Ben Richmond. Ben, would you like to introduce yourself and kind of, you know, give some additional information about the Arizona Heroes project?
Sure. Hello, everyone. It's nice to meet you all. Like Zani said, I'm Ben Richmond. I work with them at the Southwest Environmental Health Sciences Center. And so what you heard from Adam was that he was describing a project called the AZ Heroes study. And it's a study that is looking at infection and reinfection rates of COVID-19, as well as, since the vaccine has come out, it has turned into a study to measure the effectiveness of those vaccines. And so one of the ways that our kind of office got involved with that study is they really wanted to ensure that the state of Arizona was represented adequately. So it was really important to make sure Native Americans were represented in this study. So they reached out to us to help recruit Native American participants. And so this is kind of where it's important to understand the best way to do these things. And so we worked with tribes individually that showed interest in participating in this study. And we helped connect the researchers with the tribes and helped kind of renegotiate a lot of different things about it, including some of the methods. So like how blood was collected, where blood was sent or is sent, and how that's handled, how that's disposed of, or if it's kind of sent back to the tribe. And also understanding how data is used. So will the data be shared, or how much data would be shared? So we were very upfront at the beginning as a CDC funded project, for example, that the CDC would have to have access to some of the de-identified data, but they wouldn't need access to some of the specific data. So kind of making sure that we were transparent and open to being flexible with the study design. So that's one of the ways that we are kind of a part of this research and connecting communities with researchers here at the U of A. And so did I answer everything, Zani?
Yes, you did, but you didn't exactly tell who you are. Who's Ben?
Oh, hi, everyone. I'm Ben. I'm the Associate Director of Community Engagement at the Southwest Environmental Health Sciences Center. We're in the College of Pharmacy. I don't know how much you want to know about me, but my background is in public health. I got my bachelor's and master's in public health here at the U of A. I'm born and raised from Tucson. I had to go to the U of A because I had to be in the Zona Zoo. Like I had to attend every basketball game. So if you're into that, it's so much fun. So, and then I'm currently a PhD student in the higher education program. And so I don't plan on leaving ever. Tucson is awesome. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Thank you, Ben. Yeah, Ben is a huge UA athletics fan. That's all he talks about. We often joke that that should have been a part of our interviews because that's literally like what he talks about on a daily basis. Him and our other program coordinator, Alex, they both are super into UA athletics and then athletics in general. And me and Lisa are like, what's happening? What's going on? we can't relate. But yeah, no, thank you, Ben. And then also thank you all of you for watching the video of Adam. We are very proud of Adam. He is a great person to connect with, especially since I see here there are several individuals who are interested in pursuing a career in the health professions. So Adam is a great example of somebody, you know, who got to participate in a research experience, you know, got exposed to public health, went through environmental health, And because of the experiences he had, doing environmental health research, it's helped him kind of get to that next step of, being a doctor. And I think all of those lived experiences, you'll all realize this as you guys continue your education. Every experience that you have, even if it's not exactly what you imagined you would be doing, it all will help you kind of get to your ultimate goal and kind of give you a wider breadth of knowledge and experience. So yeah, so that concludes our presentation for today. We wanted to introduce you to the work that our center does, and as well as a definition of environmental health. So with that, does anyone have any questions for any of us? It can be for myself, Ben, or Lisa.
I think if you have a question, again, put your hand up, or you can put it in the chat. You can unmute yourself. I just want to point out some of the responses that the students gave for what they said they learned about environmental sciences in the chat. I don't know if you all got the chance to look at those, but I think you all have done a great job of introducing us to what it is. But I'll mute for a second to see if anybody has any questions.
I also wanted to note, like with environmental health, our philosophy is that it's very broad. And so if you have varying interests, for example, in business or in law or in education or in anything, the field of environmental health can be applied to that as well. I see a lot of environmental engineering on here. That's a very big one. It could even be in psychology. For example, we work with a researcher who is studying the mental and impacts that contaminations and different events have on communities. For example, he's looking at South Tucson in the trichloroethylene contamination that happened in the 70s and the kind of emotional impact that's had on the community. And so it really is broad. It's in the way buildings are designed and architecture. It's in your indoor environments, mold or whatever. So it really is an important concept to understand about how everything around you can affect your physical health as well as your mental health.
Thank you. And I know that we had a presentation yesterday about the American Indian Wellbeing Model, and so we recognize how those things are interconnected with one another. So thank you for bringing that in. I think public health and also environmental health sciences does recognize the interconnectedness of Mother Earth and people and the things that are on it, which you all said with One Health. Are there any questions from folks? I do want to introduce the Indigenous Stewards magazine. So again, this is the publication from their office. And as Ben said, they're going to be coming out with their 5th edition. And so please send them our way. We would love to send them to the students once they become available. They were assigned to read the article that was on page 5 about Shauna, who did NASEP and is also doing things with environmentalism. So thank you for continuing to send us those magazines. We love them.
Oh, here, Ben, there's a question in the chat that you might be interested in answering. So Kiara asked, if a student wanted to get involved in research as an undergraduate, would you be a resource to possibly connect them with research opportunities?
Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat too. So the U of A has a ton of undergraduate research programs that I encourage you to look into, like UBERP, and I don't know, Zani, there's a huge list of in all different kinds of science. So you could look into those programs around campus. If you send me an email, I can maybe send you the links to those if you can't find them. But you could also just, if you happen to find a researcher who's doing something that interests you, you could always just send an email and say, hey, are you looking for anyone to help out in the lab as well. And that happens quite often and usually works out. So I'll put my email in the chat. If you'd like to reach out, I'm happy to help. But also look into the undergraduate research programs. There's several on campus.
Was like, yes. And then also too, Carol has my contact information. So in my time at the U of A, I was really fortunate to be able to get to participate in a number of different undergraduate research opportunities. So one of them was Blazer, or Border Latino American Indian Summer Exposure to Research Program. I originally wanted to pursue a career in medicine, but then fell in love with public health. So that was one of my first internship experiences that kind of helped me identify what my path was, because I got a good idea of what public health was, and then also kind of like what clinical medicine was and what the difference is. I also participated in UROC, which is Undergraduate Research Opportunities Consortium. That's another great program that preps you for graduate school if you want to pursue a master's or a PhD. I know you guys are in like high school, so it might be a little, far off, but it's never, I guess, too early to kind of consider those things. Let's see, I also participated in NARI, which is the Native American Research Internship Program at the University of Utah. So yeah, there's a number of opportunities out there for you guys. I think it's great that you're participating in NASEP. Again, you're already a step ahead of the game by putting yourself out there, and just kind of keep that momentum going as you get into college. Because I think with college, there's so many opportunities and doors that will open for you. So my biggest advice is just to go after them. Don't be afraid to apply. I guess the big piece of advice that I tell, some of the people like I mentor is, even if you feel like you're not competitive enough, or, you're not confident in like your application, or you're worried, those are all very normal. But, go for it, submit those applications, apply for those scholarships, apply for those opportunities, because you will regret it if you don't give it a shot, and you never know. So yeah. If you have any questions about undergraduate research opportunities, Carol can definitely share my contact information with you guys.
Definitely. And I want to point out that in the backpacks that you all got, the red U of A backpacks, there were 3 different stickers in there. 2 were U of A related. One was actually created by Zani, and there are a different number of ones that you all got. There was an assortment, but the purpose of them is to increase the representation of Indigenous people in STEM. So I just want to share that she was the creator of that, and we wanted to make sure that because you all are interested in STEM careers and are powerful Indigenous people, to make sure that you had something. Did you put it on your, I see Tennille's looking on her water bottle. Do you want to show yours, Tennille? There's hers. The future of science is Indigenous. So that's just one of them. I think that it's great that you already put it on your water bottle.
I know, my heart, I'm gonna cry over here. But yeah, thank you, Carol, for shouting me out, and thank you, NASEP team, for wanting to support I call it my side hustle, but really it's like my passion project. Because like you guys, I was in your position where, I didn't know, I would put myself out there to get into some of like these programs like NASEP, even though I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to be in science somehow. And then when I got into that position, you have your days where it's like, okay, I don't see a lot of people who look like me, or, there's no one in my family who's a scientist, or there's no one in my family who's an engineer. Sometimes you question yourself, and that's, perfectly okay. And so I wanted to create those stickers as a reminder that no, you belong in these spaces, you're going to make an impact, and you guys are powerful. Your cultural identities as Indigenous people, as people of color, they're really going to carry you far. And then, similar to like how I wanted to try and inspire, individuals who just began on their journey, as you guys progress through your education, you never know who you're going to inspire by just, being in that space. So, congratulations, you guys, on being in this program. I hope you guys enjoy the stickers and use that as a reminder that, college isn't easy, but you guys can do it. You guys got it. You have people like Carol and Rudy and Natalia that believe in you. And so, yeah, I just kind of want to leave you guys with that.
Thank you. Such great words to leave on. I just want to extend my gratitude to your office, to Lisa, to Zani, to Ben for being here. Their office has also supported us by printing those huge research projects, the research posters that the NASEP students throughout the years have used to compete in science fairs and so on and so forth, which has gotten them opportunities and scholarships. And so there are just a number of ways that this office has continued to support our students. And I keep echoing this over and over. I hope that you see these individuals as resources. If you have questions that come up later, that you reach out to them, because they're really here to help support all of you in that way and on your path and journey. And so as we're closing out this session, I am going to ask Rudy to take a photo. But before we do that, if I can have everyone unmute themselves and give a big thank you to our presenters. I'll see people unmuting, and then I'll do a countdown for all of us. See the unmuting's happening. Yep, there it goes. There it goes. All right. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
All right, Rudy, are you ready for the photo? And if you have the sticker on hand, don't run and go get it, because we want to make sure that you're in the photo. But if you want to highlight your sticker, you can. I don't have my sticker with me, but.
And if we could just ask everybody to possibly come on camera, that would be great. Okay, I'll give us a countdown here. Get your stickers ready. Here we go. Getting ready for the camera. Here we go. Want to make sure we can see everybody. 1, 2, 3. Cool. Let me do a couple more. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna do one last one, because I think somebody blinked their eyes. I'm just kidding. Here we go. Give us your best Zoom smile. Here you go. 1, 2, 3. Cool. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, students, we're going to have a 10-minute break. Go get your snacks if you need it, get some water, use the bathroom. We'll come back on at 12:26. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Zani. Thank you, Lisa. I really like that video from Adam. I was in an environmental health sciences class with him with Dr. Reynolds, so got to meet him, and I think that video was cool.
Is that a video that was made just specifically for NASEP, or is that a video that is hosted somewhere else?
Because he's going to ask for a link.
Awesome.
We could send you a link. Yeah, it's up. It wasn't specific for NASEP, but it was kind of general.
Still, no, that's a great video, I think, and we would love to be able to possibly share it with others. So
sure, we'll send you the link.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you, too.
Hi, everyone.
See ya. So I hope you had a good break. How's everybody feeling? Everybody feeling good? Good, good. So we had a lot of content today, and the themes of water hopefully was brought up a lot. Themes of health. What are some other themes that you all heard? You can put it in the chat or unmute yourself. So I said water, I said health. What are some other themes? Themes or things that we talked about, I guess, is another way to include it, or things you noticed, information that was shared. Environment. Environmental health. Yep. Public health, right? An interesting fact, so research, yes, research was a big one. So in line with that, I think the person who, let's see, water contamination, yep. And that does have to do with research too, environmental health, the environment, all good things. I'm gonna share my screen with you all.
We have a little politics.
Yes, keep
There's
reading
also,
for me. Or-
yes,
Yes.
education. What else did you all?
So was there more? I can't.
No, there wasn't.
Mother
Oh,
Earth.
Mother Earth. History.
I think that point of research is a great segue because we're going to be using these water quality test kits, not today, but I just want to put them in your mind. We're also going to be using those water samples. We won't get through it this afternoon, so we're opting to do it tomorrow afternoon instead because we likely need a full hour to designate towards these water quality test kits. But within these water quality test kits, it tests for E. coli. It's also talked about why that is bad because it can cause serious illness and even death. Lead causes developmental harm, neurological and kidney damage. It tests for pesticides. Pesticides can lead to cancer, nitrates and nitrites that can come from fertilizer waste and animal waste, which is not things that we want in our bodies. Chlorine, it can produce an increased risk of like bladder infection and cancer risk, not bladder infection, bladder cancer and other types of cancer. Hardness, water hardness, this is causes that lime scale that you see on your water faucets or maybe in the shower, like that buildup. And in Arizona, we have really hard water, which is probably why we're all familiar with the deposits on those sinks and stuff. And then also pH can cause heavy metal leaching and could be cause plumbing damage. So those are a few of things that are tested within this water quality test kit here. And it's something we're going to be using. It's a great tool that we have from the the Tohono Water Resources Department. And so with that notion, you've heard a lot today about about Mother Earth, water, and also about research. And so something I want to make sure that is drilled into your memories and your minds, if you get anything from today, is that tribal nations have been stewards of this land since time immemorial. And time immemorial meaning that it's as far as back as we can remember and before history can trace. But we've been here since time immemorial, taking care of this land, making observations, and through that, making sure that we're living in a way that's harmonious with the living beings that are here. And so through that, what was introduced is that scientific method, right? And within the scientific method, you're observing, you're taking notes, you're analyzing things, you're taking in data in order to put forth results and solutions. And that is definitely the scientific method. And that's definitely something that our people have been doing in relation to us being here in this earth since as far back as we can remember. And so we have always been scientists. I use this photo here of this Hopi weaver because in order to make these rugs and everything, that's not just, it's not just weaving, it's including mathematical concepts in order to put these different geometrical shapes and things into these rugs. And so we use it in a lot of different areas of life. And this is just one example. And going back to the other themes too is, although we're interested in STEM and mathematics and all these other areas, we see that input not just in research, but we see it in things that are tangible and useful and artistic. So here's an example of a civilization. It's on Machu Picchu in Peru. Just one of many indigenous civilizations that have been on this earth. And something that's closer to home, these are Hohokam channels that were used to divert water. And the Hohokam are considered ancient people to this southern Arizona region. And what was really interesting is when engineers came here to lay down pipes for a canal, they were actually unearthing these ancient canals that indigenous people created. So it's like, if you think that they didn't know what they were, they thought that indigenous people didn't know what they were doing, this is proof that we do know what we're doing and have known. And so although in media, in Western institutions like academia, we're not always recognized as being scientists, we're not always recognized as being researchers, we have been and are and continue to be. And so again, going back to Zani's mention of feeling like there wasn't representation, like there was that idea of imposter syndrome. We want to make sure that you know that our people have always been, will always be researchers and scientists. And so with that, this is just an example of some of those ethical breaches that have happened with research with the Havasupai. They gave blood samples. The blood samples were supposed to be used for one thing. They got used for something completely different. So that created some mistrust within tribal communities, one example of that. And now tribes have their own institutional review boards to make sure that things are reviewed and it protects communities from exploitations. But the reason why we are supporting and wanting you all to be involved with research is because when we don't have a seat at a table, sometimes these things can happen and often do. And sometimes researchers who are not from the community, as mentioned before, can go in with intentions of either saying like, I want to find something else new that's going to benefit me because it's going to make me look good. Or they're coming in and telling community members, hey, I have the solution for you for this problem that I noticed, but I'm not involving you in it at all. And as the Shwek community or the Shwek workers before said, that that's not a way that that research should be done. It should involve communities. And so going back to that concept of Mother Earth and protecting Mother Earth is Indigenous people comprise less than 5% of the world's population, yet we protect 80% of the global diversity. And so the photos here on the left side of your screen just show so many of the movements where Indigenous people are protecting and fighting for Mother Earth. As Celso said, he said, if you ask people, do I speak for Mother Earth? He said, yes. These are some other people who say, yes, I speak for Mother Earth. And so up top, you see the Mauna Kea movement where they're protesting the implementation of that telescope, that huge telescope on their sacred site. The middle is from the No Dapple movement and the bottom is from Oak Flat, which is very much relevant today. And so in addition to this statistic of the percentage that we take up, yet protect so much of the global diversity in Mother Earth, we're also the first people to be impacted by things like climate change. And so therefore, we want to make sure that we are involved with this research and activism and speaking up. So there are multiple ways to show resistance. And one of the ways that NASEP wants to promote that is through visibility of these institutions through research and indigenizing STEM. And this photo here is really cool. It's actually a photo of Zani. She's in her research gear, but she's also representing up top as a scientist with her lab coat and her gloves, but underneath she has her traditional clothing and her moccasins on. And so it's just one of the many cool ways that people represent and indigenize STEM in this way. And so how we indigenize STEM within NASEP is through the Geoscience Research Project. And the history of the project is it's in partnership with ACES. So I know that you guys keep hearing ACES. That stands for the American Indian Science and Engineering Society. And they have chapters all over the nation that range from high school to college to professional. And so there's a chapter here at the University of Arizona, and it's really great because we see that a lot of NASEP participants like yourself end up going on to become members of their ACES chapters in college. And so with that in mind, since we have that good relationship with the ACES chapter and with NASEP, they approached us with an idea to apply for funding in order to promote research and geosciences in this area. And so this was all the way back in 2012. You can see that photo up top here. That was the ACES chapter back in 2012. And then us working with Dr. Carletta Chief in order to plan some activities. And so this is our very first geoscience research group. And so you may see some people that are familiar or people who, if any of them are your relatives. And then these are from different cohort years. And also, I'll go back to the first photo. This is when we went to the biosphere and just started off the geoscience research project. Students came to the biosphere and learned about water in the same way that you all are learning about water and sovereignty and land stewardship. And the shirts that they have is actually this logo that's over here, the wildcat with Mother Earth and her ecosystems. So this was at the beginning. This was at the end when students were showing their posters. Isai is the one here with the purple collar and the sweater. So this is when Isai was part of the Geoscience Research Project. But these opportunities that are represented in these photos, they're showing their research at the Geosciences College here at the University of Arizona. And later we had students represent during Native American College Day, where they had their posters up and people walked around and asked them questions. Here's some other photos representing that. Here's some photos from the 2017 NASEP, which Kiara was a part of. And then because of the work that we did with these research posters, we had this idea, you know, students have their research projects completed. Why are we not already having them enter into science fairs? So in 2018, 2017, we started having people who completed their research projects enter in science fairs. And so we actually received an award from SARCEF, the Southern Arizona Research and Science Foundation. So here's I can't even fit it in the frame, but this is the trophy that we got for the top community organization, because we had so many students who entered and placed that we were recognized for that. And so
I could barely fit the trophy in my car, Carol.
yeah, it's pretty large. It's pretty large. And so it's not, of course we boast about it because we're so proud, and it's not, and it's because of the work that you all students have done, that past students have done. And so not only did we get recognized as an organization, but students received scholarship money. They received checks like $300 or more. Once you compete and you place, you get to go to the Arizona State Science Fair and compete at the state level. And then if you do well at that level, then you get to go to the International Science Fair. And they had it in Phoenix this past year. I'm not sure where they're having it for next year, but they're all great opportunities to not only build public speaking, gain hands-on experience with research, but also delve more into a field that you're interested in. And so it's all to benefit you. So here's,
Carol,
yes.
am I correct that one of the former NASEP students that SARCEF featured, I think it was SARCEF or Arizona CEF, featured actually had won kind of their entire tuition for college, or am I off there?
Yes, so that was uh, last year, so 2 years ago. He did his research with chemistry with his, I think he had a partner with his school. So it was a little bit outside of the geoscience research project, but it's so fantastic that a student who participated in NASEP had that opportunity. He got a full ride scholarship to a college he wanted to go. I think the University of Arizona also offered him a scholarship. And so you are correct in stating that yeah, there's opportunities for scholarships to universities as well. And he did win the overall he won the overall Arizona Science Fair competition, and then he placed for the International Science Fair. Here's a couple from places that our students had won and the prizes that they had won in the past. This was from SARSEF this past year. And so again, the things that I had said before, you gain hands-on experience, you could put this on your resume, you could gain scholarships, college admission, and even so you get to travel through having a research poster. A lot of conferences that are related to science will be like, if you have research that you want to present, we'll give you a discount on your registration for this conference, or some even offer a scholarship to fly students out to present if they have research to present. And so it's an opportunity to travel. Here's another photo of Zani pipetting or gathering with a little device in order to transfer stuff into little tubes. So these are the opportunities to compete and present that we've done in the past. So there's the National Junior Science Humanities Symposium. There's the SARSEF Science Fair, AZSEF Science Fair, the National American Indian Science and Engineering Fair, which is virtual and is done through ACES. If you win, then you receive free travel to the ACES National Conference. So that's awesome. And I think this year it's going to be in Phoenix. So for some of you, it won't be too far away, but it's been at places like Hawaii, Minnesota, all these other places around the nation. And then Isai's in the background too, again, with his purple shirt and his sweater. And then this is Shondell, who graduated this year with her degree in health and community. And she's from the San Carlos Apache tribe, showing her research poster. There's also tribal science fairs. I know that the Navajo Nation has had tribal science fairs in the past. I don't think they had one this year because of COVID. I'm sure you all also are aware of like any high school science fairs that you have that you can compete in. And even if you're not competing in a science fair, there's always the opportunity to showcase your work through conferences. So how we intend to support you as the NASEP program, and this is largely done in part with by Natalia, because this is the area that she is so passionate about and has been so great in supporting our students in, is we do assist you with projects during the year. We provide materials like this, the water quality testers. We negotiate with partners to get fees and other things waived on your behalf. And if that's not possible, we'll often cover those costs if they're not able to be waived. And then also printing research posters for students at no charge. Usually they charge like upwards of $50 to print those posters because of how large and stuff they are. But we support you by providing all of those materials or finding partners who are able to subsidize those costs. And so in addition, I just want to put this out there. We recognize that each and every one of you has unique interests and passions. And so if you're thinking like, you know what, water may not be my jam, I'm more interested in air quality, Natalia is going to be doing a presentation on air quality. And one of the partners that she's connected with provides air quality sensors. They're really cool. It's a sensor that's about this big, and you can go into different spaces and it'll tell you how much particulate matter is in the air at that time. You can even do a science test where if you're in your home, like who's been in the home when a parent has been cooking like fry bread or something that causes a lot of smoke? Anybody? Lots of people. I see hands going up. It just makes the air, like it's hard to breathe, right? And a lot of the times the fire alarm will go off, like just different things happen. But if you take out that air quality sensor, you'll see the change in air quality, the one that Natalia is holding up. It's really small. Oh, I think that, yeah, there you go. It's really small. It can go on your backpack and you can take data just from having that with you and on you. So if water quality is not your jam, there's air quality as an opportunity, or even if it's something else, if it's with soil, if you're like, I want to do something specific to engineering, we're here to support you on that path. If you come up with an idea and let us know how you want us to support you, we can definitely do that.
Sustainability, we can help with sustainability. We had 2 students that worked on a water quality, but it was also sustainability in the millennial sustainability goals that they used, and it touched on 3 different goals, so we can help with that as well.
Mm-hmm. It was really cool. What she did was she learned about this method where you take cactus, the insides of a cactus, and you mix it with water, and apparently that system is supposed to purify water. It's supposed to make it cleaner. And so she used these water quality test kits to do the water before and then do the water afterwards to see the difference that it made in terms of the different contaminants that are available to be tested here. And so just outside of the box thinking, like I didn't even think of something like that, and that not only connects water quality, but also sustainability, because for places that maybe they're farther away, they're more rural, or they don't have access, like many of the tribal communities experience that issue, is that it's not like a city or some other place that's regulating their water quality. And so having that system that's sustainable and accessible is really cool. And then, so what we need from you, again, I shared with how we're trying to support you all, and what we can do is what we need from you is communication on the progression of your projects. I think you all have done a great job communicating with all of us. So again, I don't think that would be an issue, but we understand that as the year progresses, you get a little bit more busy. So we ask that you continue to communicate with us. In addition, motivation to complete your project from a distance. Even when we've had in-person NASEP, the summer session, this component of the project has always been from a distance. And so we need communication from you, we need motivation from you to be able to complete the project, and also accountability on deadlines when it comes to those deadlines. Natalia sets them to provide some guidance and also give feedback for when we're coming up on those science fair deadlines. And so just making sure you're marking them in your lab books, your calendar, putting them on your calendar for your iPad, phone, whatever, just making sure that you're being accountable of yourself as well. So some things to think about in the meantime is, what are you passionate about? Is there an issue or question you would like to address in your community? How would you frame that question as a scientific topic? And in what ways could you test or gather data on this topic, right? So for Celso, if he was thinking about this, I'm passionate about water. Is there a way to address issues in your community? He noticed that maybe the water wasn't safe in certain areas. So is there a framework on or question that he could frame this thing he's passionate about? And it's like, well, I would like to see if the water in this community is safe to drink. So what ways could you test or gather data on this topic? Water quality test kits to gather information on if the drinking water in that area is good or not. So that's just one example. At the end, we hope to have this type of research poster. So if you take a look at the different titles and stuff that are here, but that's the sort of thing that you want to be recording in your lab book. So So a catchy title, something that's going to stand out. Authors, yourself, institution, NASEP, introduction and hypothesis. This will be a lot of like information that you collect beforehand to frame your question, and also talk about the thing that you're passionate about, the thing you're trying to test here. The methods and materials, it would be this. If you're using the water quality test kits, visual images of the project, right? Celso said things that he looks for is that people are taking their own pictures, recording that data. You have iPads, you have phones to be able to take photos of your results and include those visuals in the projects. You can even put that data into graphs and tables to make it visually appealing and easily digestible for your audience. You'll come up with a conclusion. So in the conclusion, it'll be the results of your test and how it went, in addition to looking forward as to like, okay, these are my results. How can I further this research later? How can I build upon this? Or why was it impactful to my community? What are my next steps? And then the bibliography and references would just be information that you looked up maybe on the internet or in journal articles and stuff that that would go there. And then also any acknowledgements or people that you want to thank for helping you out with that project. So this is the overall goal that we want to see. This is an example of one of our student projects from 2017 when she tested tap water and natural spring water that she uses for her crops in Shanto, Arizona. And so she even included maps of where she, like a map and pictures of where she collected data. You see a graphic here, photos from her, there's a photo here from her crop. And then also at the bottom, there's the people who either donated or helped support their, so that's how we're hoping that they'll come to look, and we will help you on your path to make sure that it looks like that. So just something to think about. Every area of education, every field has their own version of research. Regardless of what you may study in the future or a career that you choose in the future, this experience will enrich your understanding of the world. And so if you're thinking, I don't know if this research thing is something I want to do, not necessarily want to do, it's just something that you didn't think that you would be doing, just know that this geoscience project is intended to be beneficial and positive for you, and will definitely help with your understanding of Mother Earth and the world, academia, and so on and so forth. And so I don't know if there's anything, I think that's it for these slides. And so I don't know if there's anything that Natalia wanted to share, but I'm going to be queuing up the assignments. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen and mute myself.
So what I like is communication when working with you, because we'll go over whether this is a good question, whether this fits into your abstract, because there's going to be several components and it seems overwhelming right now. But if we start right now or start when the school year starts, then it's one section at a time. I'll also be sending out papers and documents through your Slack. So remember to check those and save those. That will be your activities, and that should help you guide, that should guide your questions in what you want to be answered. We're going to do if A is something, then B should be the results. So the ifs and thens or and ors. So that's what I look for, and just being able to help you with the reading, the grammar, where to put stuff in your poster. The poster will be the very last part of your research project, and it's something that you can take with you. This is your research project. This is your ability to stand out when you're doing your scholarship applications or when you're doing your university applications. This will make you stand out because you actually have real legitimate research under your belt. So if you're applying to like one of the programs that Zani was talking about, then it shows, yes, you have done this already. You have a working idea. So yeah, I value a lot of interaction, and there, be able to just check your Slack often for updates and for documents that I'll be sending out.
Great, thank you, Natalia. And again, Natalia oversees the geoscience research project. She has that channel in Slack. So start making those connections and thinking of what it is that you want to do. I think with our geoscience or our test kits, people have been so creative with how they use it. And it's because they think of their community, they think of what they're passionate about. And so we're excited to see where you all take this. So yeah, for assignments for this evening, I'll be sending out the daily reflection. Most of you did the one from yesterday. If you have not, make sure that you do both of those. We do check the responses and make sure that people are completing them. They will deal with the activities that we did today. So it will likely have a question about Celso's presentation, the Schweck presentation. In addition, I'm going to send out a link to you all. There is going to be a link to a worksheet, and in the worksheet, there's going to be different, on the first page, there's going to be different categories of things that people think about when paying for college. So there's the tuition and fees, room and board, book supplies, travel, and miscellaneous. So for this is how I've been abbreviating you all's group names. So BTM stands for Blue Twisted Mind. They will be thinking about this worksheet in reference to Grand Canyon University. For Diné College, that's the one assigned to the SWAG kids, and Lab Rats have the University of Arizona. So when you look at that worksheet, there's the estimated costs and the actual cost. We're wanting you to complete the estimated costs and basically give guesses with how much you think with the university or college that you've been assigned, how much you think it's going to cost for those different areas. So for tuition, you might say like, I think it costs like $10,000 to go there for a year, or $1 million, whatever your guesses are. We welcome all guesses because it's what you think it's going to be. There's no wrong answer. And then that's in preparation for our paying for college activity and presentation tomorrow, because again, going back to those goals, part of getting to that STEM career is going to school, and part of going to school is figuring out how to pay for college. In addition, we're going to be not only having a presentation about how to pay for college, but in addition, how to tell your story and highlight who you are so that you can get the best opportunities for scholarships, because those are so important in that path to college as well. So with that, we would like you to watch this video to introduce you to our presenters for tomorrow and their work and what they do. So that's what that video is related to. In addition to listening to the podcast from College Horizons, it's going to be episode 1 with Dr. Adrienne Keene, and it's available on on 3 different platforms. I think you can listen to it on their website. If you're a Spotify subscriber, you can listen to it on Spotify. If you prefer Apple Music and Apple Podcasts, they have it there too, but I will include the links to all those opportunities to listen in the email that I've been sending you all. So with that, are there any questions from students or anything that the staff wants to share?
I have a question.
Yes.
So for the paying for college worksheet, the estimates, are they for each academic year?
Yes, for one whole academic year. So for the fall semester and spring semester, if they do it by 2 different semesters, some universities have trimesters, so they'll split it up into 3 different parts, but this will be for a whole year at that school. So great question. And so again, your group would be doing University of Arizona, don't look up the answers. That's not the point of this activity. It's your guesses. Any other questions? Any other questions? Oh, there was a question that I received on the Nike Run Club app. So if you're using the Nike Run Club app to track your running, you're going to want to hit that little person that's running like this. And then on the top, there's 3 different options. There's start a run, there's guided runs, and training plans. You're going to want to make sure it's selected on start a run. And once you select start a run, there's going to be an orange start button in the center. So you're going to click that, and that's how you start your run. And so there's in addition to that start button, if I'm looking at it straight on to the left, there's settings. So if you want to change any settings, you can have it play music. There's different options there, but I hope that that's helpful to whoever asked that question. Again, make sure that you're opting into the challenge and putting in some run hours. If you're doing it, tracking it manually, you can also share that manual mileage onto the reflection Google that we're going to be sending to you all. So I think that we had a lot of great information today, and you all did a great job in listening and being engaged and asking questions. So I just want to give a big round of applause to you all, and keep it up. I'm encouraging you to keep it up. And with that, go get something to eat if you gotta do anything. But we're dismissing you for the day. Stay on if you need to ask any questions. We'll be here, but we'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's theme is going to be paying for college. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
See you later.
I have a question.
Yes.
So the water test kit, is it this one?
So there's 2.
Oh, it is this one, right? This bag?
Yes, there's actually 2 bags though. So the
the other one. What?
big bag is, yes, they're the same. So the big bag that has a lot of different ones in there, that's the one that you're going to use. The other one, they might be older kits. We're using them for the demonstration purposes. And so the one in the little baggie is the one we're going to use within our activities on this summer session to be able to show you how to use it and stuff. So don't use it yet, but yes, there are 2, and yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for answering my question. Peace. Have a good.
See you later. Bye.
I also have a question as well. So for the composition books that we got, will that be for this school year? Like, is this considered our notebook for like taking down our notes for the science project?
Yes, that will be. It's important to handwrite your results and your observations. So when you start, we'll start with the sample, the example we're going to do in activities. So that's what you start with. And I think I'll send something through Slack to show you what I've done in the past to collect my data. So just keep an eye out for that.
Okay, and like, do we have to have like a certain format, or can we just like jot down anything and like make it our own?
Make it your own, but we're going to also go over the scientific method in when I do a presentation, so you know kind of the format, but you can do both. So yeah, jot down what you think is important and what we'll go over in the section.
Yeah, I think the big thing is however you to do it, make sure that you're dating it. That's going to be important. So yes. Did you have a question, Mateo? And Adam, I don't know if you had another question, but I'm going to have Mateo ask his question.
Okay, so I'm gonna be leaving to California. Should I bring this bag?
Yes.
Okay, and then does this thing have a cap? Because I didn't. Because
Yeah, it's supposed to. It must have fell off.
when I got my package, it was like ripped into.
It was ripped into it.
Like not like it had a hole or something in it.
Uh,
But nothing was missing except for I guess the cap for this.
that's so strange.
Well, what you can do if you're if you're leaving, just put it into a small container, just because you're gonna only use that for one of the activities and you don't need a lot of it. So, so it doesn't make a mess, just find a little small container or a Ziploc bag you can keep it in.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Safe travels.
Bye.
Cool. Good job, everybody. How do you think today went? Are we still recording? I thought I stopped the recording. Oh, yep.